doing surveys.
Of Limekilns.
Limekilns, all kinds of stuff, old ancient tracks.
Right. Oh, that's
Old
good.
ancient tracks, yeah, around Bricksteel Wood,
Oh,
not far from here.
Yeah.
So we have to check on the condition of these old roads and old tracks. And a farmer shouted at us because we had to go over his land to get to the National Trust bit. And he came roaring up on his tractor and he said, "What are you doing here?" And we said, we're with the National Trust doing a survey. He said, "Well, this is my land." He said, "Yes, we know, but we have to get through your land to get to the National Trust bit." So he was a bit ferocious.
Did you have a right of way there?
Well, the gate was wide open. He said, "Did you open the gate?" And we said, no, it was already open, but I could tell he didn't believe us.
Right.
no, no. Well, I've got a really interesting story to tell you about, but I'm not going to tell you yet. Mine was security camera, me talking to somebody on the security camera. Then I realized somebody was already over the gate coming to, and I thought, oh my God, I got a complete invasion. But I'm not going to tell you about that yet. Right.
Oh no.
There was nearly an incident. I had to phone a friend.
Ooh.
This is all real, right? But before we talk about me and all my problems, well, Margaret. But anyway, Margaret, any other news from you?
Well, I was watching a program. Was it last night or the night before with Steve Bagshaw, the explorer man?
Yeah.
And he was in Indonesia and Borneo looking for a cave he'd been told about that has 40,000-year-old cave drawings in it. And they did find it. And they said it could be between 40,000 and 50,000 years old. But what's interesting is they'd got these hand stencils, just like the ones that they have in Europe. And you just think, God, it's strange that so far apart they're doing the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And using the same ochres and things, the same rocks.
Or it was the same artist who'd gone there on his holidays. Yeah.
But isn't it strange that they're thinking to do the same kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. No, very true. That is so apt.
Weird,
Yeah.
weird.
That is so true. Right, anything from you, David?
No, sorry.
Andy.
No, I was up. It's talking about old tracks. It made me think of. I was up on Thursday. Went up a valley called Longsleddle Valley, that's just north of Kendal.
Longsleddle, that's where he lives.
Yeah, right. I wondered if it was. It was that what's it
that's
bridge there?
where
Where Postman Pat's from.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hang on a minute. No, this is too much. Teletubbies.
No, there weren't no Teletubbies. But it was lovely and quiet up there. But the road goes up over a pass there and then drops down to Haweswater, or Mardale as it would have been, which is straight through then to Shap and Penrith. And I thought, do you know, I wonder if this was the old route, before the A6.
Yeah,
because it looked like the most obvious route and shortest route. So I think it were an old route. Nice some archaeology I wasn't allowed to go near though.
Why not?
Hang on a minute. Why was that farmer again?
No, it was a wife and daughter. And actually, if I had gone and looked, I would have run out of energy because I haven't been up a mountain for 20 years, and I did run out of energy quite quickly. So getting old.
Well, of course, Haweswater's where the old village was.
Yeah, Mardale.
Mardale, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I've walked through Mardale.
Have you?
Yeah.
The Packhorse Bridge.
Yeah, in the 1970s when it got really low.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
I could see some of it from the top of the fell I was on. You could see some of the lines of the edge of Mardale, but where the actual village was underwater then. So.
Yeah.
But,
well,
they nice area.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, I like it there.
A lot of mines up the top end of Longsleddle, but that was the bit I didn't get to go and explore. I would have run out of energy if I had.
I thought my joke there was really good, but nobody laughed.
I didn't hear you.
I thought somebody must have left the tap on.
Oh yeah, we
right. Yeah, very good, Carl. That's good. Haweswater's a reservoir for Manchester, so
Yeah, but that was the joke.
No, I'm just explaining for those who don't know Haweswater. So.
Yeah, but it's not the point. You should be laughing.
All right. It's great.
We were.
Was that enough? I didn't want to overdo it. But,
No, that was great.
It wasn't that funny, but but it was good for you, Carl. That one, good one.
Somebody thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny.
Right.
Yeah, hang on. Don't labour the bloody point now.
I smile. I smile.
Right. Okay. Oh,
Moving
God.
on. Yes.
And Andy. Right.
That's it. Thank you.
Where
Yeah.
are we, Andy? Carry on.
Yeah, I know that was it. I just thought it was. I thought, this has got to be an old track, and it was laid. They'd laid the slate on edge on the way up, but I'm guessing because I saw a couple with drill marks in it. I thought that's probably 19th century for when they were mining, but it was a very well made road. So.
All right.
But it was. I think I'm sure it was an old trackway. But...
Yeah.
Nice. I love old trackways. So.
Maybe the monks used it to get to Chap Abbey.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
That is at the other end of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know who's just joined us. Anne's just joined. Yep. Anne, we were talking about you. Anne, we were.
Maybe we should not say anything nasty.
I don't know. Janis Joplin hasn't turned up tonight.
Don't she? Oh, right.
Not yet.
Not yet. No.
I haven't spoken to her today.
No. You upset her last week as well. Right. Anyway, anything from you, Judith?
No, nothing. Thank you.
I was going to say something about it. You know when you've got families and you see something really interesting and it's just like, oh, this is embarrassing. I don't want you to get out of the car. Blah blah blah. Andy, we should reinforce our rights and go out and see the history and archaeology. That's happened to me as well. There was this wonderful barrow in a field, right? And I just thought, wow, I got to stop. I got the camera. No, Dad. Yeah, come on. No. Yeah. You're taking me to McDonald's.
I did see a couple of mounds that look. I thought, oh, they're not the normal drumlins that you get in a valley. They're round. Yeah. They could be something else. But I'll remember they're there. But yeah.
No, you won't. You'll never see them again.
No, I don't. Well, Tilly was quite. My youngest daughter was with me. So last time we went out, we went to did Hadrian's Wall. So we had a good look at that. And then I pointed out. I said, remember the shape and the size of the stones. And then when we go to the next town, you'll see some. And she was like, oh, look, yeah. So, yeah. So.
I saw Hadrian's walls once, but I was a bit drunk at the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
But, Anne, anything from you?
No.
No? Right. Anne always looks like one of those dodgy models from the 60s. Lovely.
Right. It's like Twiggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, Drina. I know Drina looks like Twiggy. Right, yeah, Drina, anything for you?
I wish. No news.
Oh, you're building up to my story. I can tell. I'm going to love telling you this. I'm not. Right. Okay. Richard and Emma, do you want to? The fan club. Emma's running a fan club dedicated to the eminent archaeologist. I thought I'd mention that. Anyone wants to know? Then job done. Emma and Richard, anything you want to say?
Not from us. No.
Right. Yeah. Don't I look clear tonight? Is that clear, Andy?
Yeah. It is very clear. Yeah.
Do you know, oh my God, I got to get the brush out. Oh my God. Where's
You've gone HD.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. I'm looking really good.
Yeah.
By the way, I've got the new laptop coming as well.
Ooh.
Does that look good?
Yeah.
Take a photograph. Yeah.
All your own hair as well.
Andy, you said it, not me. That was
absolutely. Yeah. I can say things like that.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Anyway, the post behind me, it's like this because of the way the posts are leaning into. Anyway, right. So I was here, minding my own business with the cat, right, and I heard the alarm, right, and I pressed the button, and it was this woman standing at the gate, and I just thought, what? So I was going, hello, and she was going she was talking to the tree. Because she could not work out where the cat. She was going, yeah, I didn't know trees could talk. She was going, hello, tree. And I was just, oh no, this is just. And I just, right, I need to leave this woman talk to the tree, right? And then the next thing, I saw somebody come in over the gate from my side. I thought, oh no, this is just too much, right? This is too much. So I ran over there, right? And there's this guy standing in the field. I said, he says, oh, he tells me who I am. I'm thinking, oh, right, really? Hang on a minute. How the hell did he know who I was? That's one thing I didn't question. Anyway.
Eminent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
The price of eminence. Yeah.
Hang on a minute. How did he know who I was?
Or
Anyway,
is that a Simon and
I was-
Garfunkel song?
Is eminent as good as esteemed?
Ooh.
Ooh.
No, I don't think so.
I think esteemed is.
I
the
think
next
esteemed's the
notch
next one up.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there yet.
No.
Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just trying to tell you a story. Just talk totally over me. It's fine. Just don't worry about that. It's okay. Anyway, I was, and then there was this woman standing at the gate talking to me in Welsh. Can I come into the field? I'm thinking, oh yeah, may as well. We'll have them all in here, right? And next, he's talking about 20 minutes earlier that he was talking to me over the boundary, and I thought it was somebody else. I ignored them, right? Apparently, the neighbour had told them to go on the back end of my farm, right, all the way to the back to go over the barbed wire. And my neighbour had given these people permission to come onto my property. Obviously, I'm tamping at this stage, right? Anyway, he's standing there saying, we want to see this archaeological monument on your site. And I said, no, you can't, because I don't know who you are, right? It's part of the charity thing. No, and he's going, oh, so you're an establishment archaeologist. You're trying to stop us seeing it. And he was giving me all of this, right? And I just thought, yeah, but you work for the government. And I just thought, please, no, it's not me, right? And I had to phone someone. I had to phone someone who was a member of this guy's group. And I just said, look, just talk to him. Tell him I'm not this person, whatever, right? And the next thing he's saying that, you know, there's something really important on my land and all the rest of it. And, you know, he's pinpointed it. And I just thought, oh, no. And the woman he's saying, oh, I want to go on there. And I'm saying, you can't because there's sheep there. And his missus is saying, no, listen to the guy. It's his land and all the rest of it. And so on and so on. And then I take them to the middle of the road and I say, look, you know, this is the sacred well, you know, and they're putting money in the sacred well. And I've managed to get on them on my side, right? What is bonus about this story is then I said, oh, do you want a copy of one of my books? And he said, oh, yeah, you're going to sell it to us. And I said, no, to appease the situation. Oh, you can have a copy, I said. It's fine. Judith has paid for it. You can have a copy. Thanks, Judith. I knew I'd get rid of one eventually. Anyway, and the weird thing is that then he ended up paying for the book, which was great. So I made a tenner, so that's good. And I've ended up now agreeing to give a talk to his group at the well in August, right? And then he's saying, why have you got a sign on the gate that says dangerous dogs when there's no dangerous dogs running around? And I thought, oh my God, this is giving it all away. But anyway, that's fine. That was my day. Was that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
Yes. Exciting day.
Yeah, but how did he know? That's the problem.
Yeah, how did he know my name? I didn't know. He just wanders up here. I'm in the middle of the field and he's just saying, you're karl-james. I'm thinking, how do you know? And he said, I didn't know you were here. And I'm just thinking, how do you know who I am? And you just got it. Oh my God. That's going to be bugging me now.
Yeah, it's a
Everyone
bit
does that.
surprising, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it is.
They were in black suits with it.
Have you heard of Derbyshire well dressing?
Yep.
Well, whatever.
Used to
No,
be
they're
a-
not
it
coming
used to
down
be
here because
olden
it's not
days.
Derbyshire.
Thing. Yeah, I know, but it's a similar thing. They used to decorate the wells. They used to have big imagine a big float that they used to decorate with flowers. But they used to do that with a well, and they'd have competitions. And
We used to have them up here. But I haven't seen it for a while.
no,
Was it Ambleside, Margaret? They had a well dressing, or
I don't remember.
maybe Bowness. It was one of them had a well dressing. But I haven't seen it for a long time.
but if you look at
Yeah,
if you're
great.
looking for an event or something, you could do.
Yeah.
You could incorporate that in your talk, maybe. I don't know. Is that a Welsh
Oh,
tradition
yeah.
as well?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, next week we'll do well dressing as well. I'll do the talk there at the well. It's fine. Get over it.
thought you wanted to. All right. Next.
Fine. Next, yeah, that'll do. That's my day, really. Oh, by the way,
Good
I
idea,
wanted to-
Judith. I thought it
Thank,
was.
thank you.
Thanks. I really appreciated that. Judith has even muted herself, I think. Have somebody's put a
Have
pin
I?
there?
I don't know. I press buttons and I don't know what I'm doing. No, I'm not.
Why? Hang on. Am I just on the screen by myself now?
No,
No.
you're on the
No.
multi-screen at the moment.
We're
Oh,
here down the bottom.
am I? Oh, right. That's great. Love it. Just down at the bottom. I just
You're
wanted to
the-
say, right. What?
You're the main man. We're just in our little boxes.
Hang on a minute. So I'm the main man and you're in your little boxes.
Yeah.
We're all in our little boxes and you're the main screen.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. See what I did there? I pressed the thing.
Press the button and
Right. Can you let me get a word in edgeways? Thank you. I just wanted to mention that now it's more or less at the end of the month. Don't forget to send over your 50 squids for the next 2 months. The SWAT Emma's already done her bit, right? So don't forget, everybody else, put your monies over for the next 2 months, or Judith, you do whatever you do. And I just thought I'd mention it. So normal £50, job done. I can go now. Did you enjoy that lecture? You completely did.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, we
It
did.
flies by, doesn't it? It's that
Yeah.
good.
It just fly by.
Sacre bleu. Did I just swear in
Oh.
French? Is that
No,
swearing?
no idea. No idea.
Yes.
Très bleu, yeah. Dreadful.
What about merde?
Yes, that's swearing too.
All right, okay. Let's just. I'll probably be banned from this now. Right.
Well, only in France.
Only in France.
Yeah. But because because of Brexit, we don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I've started selling turkey eggs as well. I can send turkey eggs in the post, but you'll have to pay about an extra 10 quid postage for me to send them to you. Now, I thought actually we're going to look at iron currency bars as well. Yeah. Do you know, I know how to treat a woman. Yeah, so does Claire. You come and see my socketed axe head, but that's something else. But I just wanted to mention that when we look at the Iron Age, there's so much sophistication, and not only do we have extensive metal mining and mineral mining, and we've also got their knowledge of heating up stone, for example. And yes, lime is being processed in the Iron Age. However, it's not processed in anything like this. I thought this was interesting, however, because this gives you the shape and sense of what a lime kiln is and looks like. And obviously, I don't want to spend all day and all night looking at lime kilns through the ages. But I just wanted to mention that lime kilns in the Iron Age are a very, very simple affair. And there's not a great deal of evidence out there that I can find to explain about these lime kilns in the Iron Age. However, I did actually find one locality which is known as Barrow upon Soar. And there it is near Birmingham. And I just got a few images to show you. And the images take us through a story of lime kilns across a landscape. And I thought that was very appropriate, because none of you in Arnside will obviously be aware of this, will they, Andy? However, and Margaret mentioned about the large number of lime kilns around Silverdale and Arnside. And when I used to live up your way for the 2 days a week or whatever was there, I can remember going around either on the train or whatnot, and seeing all these lime kilns. However, that's basically an Iron Age lime kiln, basically a clamp kiln, a scoop out of the ground. And again, it's associated with a site at Barrow upon Sower. Sower. So I thought I'd bring you this site today. However, but what we need to do is give a little bit more of a context to what these lime kilns are all about. And maybe what you could be thinking about is something a little bit later than the iron age lime kilns that we're going to look at today. This is associated with a section of that, which is in fact this structure. It looks like this is cut into the rock, but it is a freestanding structure, and that's there. Many lime kilns exist across Britain, and throughout the ages, they're probably the most identifiable and most prosperous piece of archaeology in limestone landscapes. You don't necessarily need to find lime kilns in limestone bearing areas. Limestone may have come from outside into an area, but the likes of Arnside, the likes of Derbyshire, the likes of southern Wales, and many other localities across Britain, except the likes of Wiltshire and Lincolnshire and so on. However, there are large areas where you get lime kilns, because places like in Lincolnshire, you've got chalk, and obviously you do have limestone there, but down in Wiltshire, it's mainly a chalky landscape. So this one thing, I've got this image in front of us, which is more enigmatic of a later period. But as I'm reading the information out in front of me, it will give you a gravity of what we're talking about in regards to lime kilns in Britain in the Iron Age. So Iron Age lime kilns in Britain, though less common than you see in the Roman and medieval periods, did exist. Undoubtedly, we know they existed, but the archaeological evidence is very scant and very, very limited indeed. Now, I personally have excavated, I would say, a converted corn drying kiln into a lime kiln, but in regards to examples across Iron Age sites, they're very difficult to discern, because if they're just scoops in the ground, clamp kilns, they may have been cleaned out and used for other purposes. They're not as stentorial as this example, and of the examples that you might, for example, see across modern day Arnside from the 1800s. However, they did exist and are often found in association with settlements and quarries. Naturally, this is the point. Why are we talking about limestone? You can't make it into weapons. But you can do a lot with it. Believe me. Now, early lime kilns were simple structures, and maybe what we need to do is we need to probably go off here and maybe do a little bit of one of my old sketches on the screen. So here we go. Let's try and do one of my whiteboard sketches. And whoever has just joined us now, you're very welcome. So let's just, oh God, this is the new thingamajig. Right, okay. Don't show this again. Oh God. I've not seen this technology. Right, okay. You all still there?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, naturally what we might find when you're talking about lime kilns in an Iron Age context, it's looking quite good, isn't it? That's good. That's just a little bit more of a drawing. That's looking really good. Right. So from the descriptions I've actually got from the archaeology and basically one description that we've got here is that what you might do is pile this up with wood. You might pile this up with charcoal. You might find little bits of coal, those little black things lying around the floor in Derbyshire, which are sort of, that burns really well. So what you might do is fill the base of this clamp up, just fill it up with anything. So what we need to do, this is new on me, this technology. So I'm just going to try and see if we can change a color. Can I change the color? Oh, I don't know. Can I do that? It's not letting me change the color, which is a bit of a shame. But what you might do, you might have a few. Oh, look at that. That's even better. Oh, cool. Look at that. So what we might do is you're going to fill that up with loads of burny material, right? And then what you're going to do, you're going to mix in loads of little bits of broken limestone. Now, the whole point with this, right, is if we go to there. Oh, no. Anyway, you're going to have loads of bits of broken limestone. It's not really changing color, never mind. You're going to have loads of little bits of broken limestone. And the smaller the bits of limestone, the better, right? So what you might do is and this is basically a camp kiln. So what you might do is you might set light to it straight away, right? And you might, that sort of layer there, you might set light to it straight away. And what you're going to then do is cap it off. So the whole thing's going to smolder and heat up over 24 hours, maybe 48 hours. And then what you're left with is you're basically left with lime. And that's basically a clamp kiln. You'd clean it out and you'd go through the process again. Oh, thank goodness that's over. Right, let's go back. Over the years, I've not been known for my artistic skills. I might be some kind of a Che Guevara of archaeology. Andy, there you go, Che Guevara. But the point is, the one thing about lime kilns is, with something that I've sort of just basically demonstrated, they're not going to leave much evidence. So early lime kilns were simple structures, often just pits or mounds where limestone and wood were piled, covered, and then burnt. So the lime that you're going to be left with is loads of little bits of white stuff with loads of little flecks in it. And that's basically early lime. However, this is the whole point, right? So what you're going to get is, if we keep going, that as technology advanced, kilns became more sophisticated, with features like pot lining and improved shapes. So in other words, the whole thing's going to be lined and it's going to be really more complex. And the whole point with this technology is, what do we need lime for? And that's what we're just going to mention now. So probably like many things in the Iron Age, lots of these things were discovered by accident, right? And obviously, what you're producing is calcium oxide, and then the derivative of that is calcium hydroxide. So basically, you can create lime, in other words, quicklime, by heating up the limestones to a whopping temperature of 900 degrees C. This process, known as a limestone burning, releases carbon dioxide and results in the formation of calcium oxide. Now, it may have discovered this by accident, right? And this is the whole point. However, calcium oxide, quicklime, it reacts to water and heats up, which creates calcium hydroxide. Now, this is one real weird thing, right? And we'll probably talk about this loads of times in the future. So if somebody's been burning lime, right, and limestone, and created lime, because there's two, as I said, you've got calcium oxide and calcium hydroxide. So you're producing your quicklime, right? So basically, it's a really nice dry day. There's no rain. Brilliant, right? So your lime has been burning in a kiln like this for 24 hours, 48 hours, or you're in the Iron Age and you've got a clamp kiln in the ground, right? So there we go. Everybody's happy. So you put it in a bucket or you put it on a cart, right? Unfortunately, you leave it overnight, and there's dew, and the dew reacts with the calcium oxide, and your cart is now up in flames, because that's exactly what happens. The quicklime reacts with water, and actually there's a reaction, a thermal reaction, which means that it heats to such a temperature that it's going to be enough to burn your bucket or set your life aflame, or the cart's going to go up in flames. What is the use of something like this? Well, what you've got to do is you've got to get to calcium hydroxide, and this is obviously, if we put a little bit of an image of a one of these Iron Age kilns on there, the staining in the middle, that's an Iron Age kiln. So if we want to explain this a little bit more, you've got calcium hydroxide. You can use in building. Okay, that's not really going to be much good to an Iron Age farmer who's used to making their buildings with wood. However, do you know what's going to be absolutely perfect to use the calcium hydroxide for? Right, you can actually use it with a mixture of daub, right, and it actually sets like concrete, right, because I've actually used it in this building, right, and it's brilliant for wattle and daub panels. I've tried it, we've used it, and in fact that's the best one, right? So we got a bag of calcium hydroxide and slate lime, that's what they call it if you go to the builders, and we're mixing that with sort of clay and sort of mud and straw, and it's absolutely perfect rendering, right? So yeah, that's one use. So what you're going to do, you're going to use lime, you're going to spread it on the fields, right? So you've got a very acidic landscape, right? A bit like a bit like Cardiff. Cardiff's got really acidic soils. It's red soil. So wherever you got that's the thing. Right? Soils that are very acidic are usually red, right? So there's loads of places, for example, Monmouthshire, right? I was working in Monmouthshire recently, acting, and the fields were all red, and I thought they're acidic. Because what it is, red soil itself has got something called sesqui oxides. And the sesqui oxides are basically iron oxide, basically iron, sort of iron, active iron, right? And it also makes the soil quite toxic and sort of, very acidic. So what you've got to do, you've got to find lime and you've got to spread that on the fields. How people realize this, I don't know, but they did, right? You can use lime as well. For example, one of the best uses of lime is to deal with a body. Now, when you think about that, you think, right, okay, so if people want to render a body back to bones, right? What you simply do, you put the body in the ground, you cover it with lime. You could actually put quicklime over it, and it just but that would burn away the bones as well. So no, you need calcium hydroxide. Spread that on the body, and it eats away at all the tissue. And within a year, you can dig up the body. Aunt Fanny's with you, and you can do whatever you like with the bones and a skull, right? You can also use lime so you spread it on your fields as well, so you've got an alkaline soil, that you can actually have different crops, and different crops are going to be planted on the field. Various pulses are going to react better to less acidic soil, so you can spread lime on it. You can use it for cooking, you can use it for medicine, pharmaceutical industry. Lime you can use for basically anything, but usually hydroxide. The one thing about this calcium oxide, the stuff that you're getting out from the kiln straight away after it's after you've cooked the lime, right, the limestone by 900 degrees C, right, is that when you're handling it, right, if it goes in your eyes, it can blind you. So it would have been a learning curve, and it's very toxic as well. There's a little bit of a story. I can tell you a bit of a story now, right? I didn't want to go fully into lime kilns. I'll do this again in the distant future, but basically in the 1800s, there were many lime kilns across Britain. They were really more sophisticated, massive examples of this, right? So what people would do on cold winter days, right, they would huddle around the tops of these lime kilns and they would feel the heat, right? But many people are said to have fallen asleep and never to have been seen again. Because what happens is that the body gets asphyxiated. You get asphyxiated by the fumes, and you roll into the lime kiln. Right, you're cooked as well, and nobody notices that there's little bones and stuff because it's all gone up, and you are now part of the building industry somewhere. So that's a fact. So again, again, this is a much later example, and we'll talk about this in a short while. But we got a landscape here where we've got an earlier limestone. Oh, start again. We're going to earlier Iron Age lime kiln, and we've got a later lime kiln. So early Iron Age kilns were likely simple, and as we said, like this one, consists of hollows in the ground where limestone and wood were stacked, covered with turf or clay, and then ignited. Well, you can't really ignite it if you've sealed it up. So you're going to have to start lighting it before you seal the whole thing up with. So basically this one here, and I'll tell you another couple of words now as well. So what you're going to do, you're going to put a mound over there, right? And that's basically your clamp kiln. It looks rounded in profile, actually, simply because probably erosion. So it's sort of that sort of profile. It's probably down to erosion rather than anything. It may have actually been sort of squared edged or something like that. Anyway, so you're gonna start lighting that. Now, the one thing as well is, right, if you did this with pottery, right, interesting enough, if you did this with pottery, right, here's a little bit of a history lesson, right. There are two main types of pottery that we produce in Britain. In the Iron Age, Roman period, medieval period, a little bit before the Iron Age and the Bronze Age and sort of end of the Neolithic. And we've got grey pottery, black pottery, and terracotta, orange and yellow pottery, right? Stuff in the middle, brown buffs and stuff, but forget about that. So if it's grey and black, right, it's meant that it's been put into a clamp kiln like this, right? And then because the oxidized clay is not exposed to oxygen whilst the pots in the kiln are burning, because it's sort of sealed and there's no circulation of oxygen, so the pots come out black and grey. But if you've got a flue system where you've got where you've got air sort of coming in from a flue one side and then exiting through a stokehole, it's not sealed, right? That's where you get your buffs and your terracotta, not so much buff yellow, and then you get the terracotta colours. So that's giving you a little bit of a history lesson about pottery as well. Like you guys are really getting your money's worth tonight, honestly, right? So this is what we've got. So minimum traces like this. So these early kilns often left little or no trace, making them difficult to find and identify. This is why we haven't got many in Britain that have been found. And also the problem is what we've got is later lime kiln industries across Britain have undoubtedly destroyed earlier lime kiln industries. That's what you find with any mineralization in Britain. This is what you'll find with even the coal industry, right? In future generations, people are going to be going, hang on a minute, there was a coal mine here, right? Where is it? Right? There's a big hole in the ground. It's gone. Simply because what we've done, we've done open cast, and we've removed traces of even Victorian mining, because we've done open cast. We've done a lot of that in Wales, for example, and Derbyshire and some. And you've done that with likes of Millom, where you've taken out the whole of the landscape due to iron mining, right? So the point is that this is one thing to remember, that you don't really get traces of earlier archaeology in the sense of mining, because it's usually been destroyed. And that's the problem when we're trying to trace early industries, right? It's the same with anything really, that we've having an original Model T Ford car, you need millions, right? Not many are left, right? So what we've done is, there were thousands taking, I don't know, model Ford cars. There must have been millions of them at one stage. But the point is, when they went on a production line, I think that's right. Maybe completely wrong. Maybe it was 100. But anyway, so the reason why we got so few is obviously they've been scrapped and, they've been made into other cars. And it's basically, that's the same metaphor. Somebody check that Model T Ford cars, how many were made. So the point is that this is the same with mining industry, right? It's what we get is that when there's lots of iron being mined in an area, then earlier traces of stuff have gone. So if there was iron mining, for example, at Millom, right, it would be from the Iron Age. There's going to be no evidence at all because it's been wiped out. It's gone. Because when people were mining in the Iron Age, they were mining closer to the surface, right? And that would be really the best of the best iron, and that's not going to last into the 1800s. That's basically what's happening. Anyway, so let's just crack on to where we were. So what we then got is that development and improvements. So over the years, as technology evolved, kilns became more efficient and well designed, with features like pot lining to improve fuel efficiency and kiln shape to better control the burning process. So that's all about lining and making sure that you don't have much heat loss, right? So pot lining, this involved lining the inside of the kiln with stone or other materials to prevent heat loss and ensure even burning. So what we've got, that's pot lining. So that stuff at the bottom, the stone, it's all about keeping the efficient burning in the kiln. And it's not easy to burn limestone. It's really, really not. It's really complex process, to be honest with you. So, and actually, they're talking about examples of demonstrations of this in the Lake District. So just give us a little bit more information on this, and then actually, what I want to do is I want to that image at the end. This one, yeah, is just so odd, right? They're using peat, right, and they're using peat to create. To burn the limestone. And I'm thinking, I'm a bit confused with that. And the reason why I'm a bit confused with that, and I'm not really sure that this is the right image on the planet, because peat burns at roughly no more than 400 degrees C. To get quicklime, you need 900 degrees C. So I'm really not sure what's going on with that. But anyway, let's just go with what we've got. So obviously the primary purpose of these kilns was to produce quicklime by burning limestone. Simple as that. Easy, right? I should have said that at the beginning. We could have saved us a lot more hassle. So we've basically mentioned agriculture, neutralizing acidic soils and improve crop growth. Now, if you're going to do that, if you're going to need to do that on a 1 acre field, right, you need a lot of lime. And when I say a lot of lime, when you take a pebble off say Haverick Beach or off Newport Beach or whatever, you take a pebble and you break it up. So you break it up into small bits, and then by the reduction of burning and so on, that's going to be broken into bits. So you can imagine that a pebble which is 2 hand size, that's what you're going to get. Lime is going to be a small handful, right? So you're going to need a lot of limestone to be placed into these kilns. And that is one thing as well, is the best stuff to use in these kilns, right, is actually to go on a beach and you've got readily made pebbles and you break them up and you just chuck them in a lime kiln. But you can't always do that if you're in the middle of Derbyshire, because there's no sea. So hang on a minute. Lancashire, Derbyshire haven't got any sea. No, it hasn't, have it? So anyway, the one thing again is you can look at other limestone uses, and in more modern ages, lime mortar and plaster used in building construction. But this is really interesting, right? So if we go to the example in Arnside, right? So key features and construction. Fuel source. While wood was the primary fuel in early kilns, as technology advanced, other fuels like coal and peat were also used. Now, I can't get the peat bit. I really can't. It might be to do with if you're burning peat, you need to burn it with other materials. But what you might do is you might get refractive heat. So heat upon heat is going to reflect the value of the thermic reaction in the kiln. Obviously, if you've got lined walls, the peat might actually have an acceleration in value. So it might be higher than just burning 400 degrees C. And it burns over a longer period of time as well. So if you're using a kiln which has got peat, it's likely that your burning time's probably a whole week. So yeah, you can burning lime takes a long, and also you've got to be very wary if it's going to start raining, folks. Right, that's the problem, right? And this is what we found with some lime kilns. Now, for example, if say, for example, it's a nice summer day, right? Children are minding their own business, playing in the stream, right? Fine, right? Daddy and mummy are up there filling up the kiln. Everything's fine, right? But nobody tells us there's going to be a thunderstorm in about 3 days. So you spend 2 or 3 weeks getting this ready, breaking the stones up, getting the material. You're ready. Your food's ready, stockpiled. You're going to go for it, right? But then the problem is, just the day before the lime is ready, it starts raining, right? And basically all that work is for nothing, because this stuff will set like, well, it's going to set like concrete, isn't it? So obviously, whenever you can't have a lime kiln on the top of a mountain without fuel, you're going to need stuff to burn. That's basically it, right? And then the other thing as well is, ironically, to move the calcium hydroxide, the lime that obviously, it's powdery form, it's been hydrogenized, right? It's been exposed to liquids and so on. So basically, you can then transport it. So you need to be able to transport the lime, large amounts of lime around the country. So preservation, many Iron Age lime kilns have not been well preserved due to their often simple construction and the fact that they were sometimes built in locations that were later developed or altered. And that is the place that we're going to go now, which is known as Barrow upon Sour. I haven't got many images of this, but it's all for the good of the country, as we say, Barrow upon Sour, and it's part of a development. So you've got A, C, and B. So A is basically, these are the figures, and this is the landscape. These are the kilns. Obviously, that's Arnside. So if we want to, if we're looking at this, I think figure 2 is where C is, and I think the other one's where B is, but neither here nor there. But anyway, let's just talk about this archaeological landscape. Let's get my notes up. So Barrow upon Sour, nothing to do with Barrow on Furnace. So lime kiln workings across this landscape. And this was part of a development, an archaeological development. So as most of us already know, it is a condition of new building development that the developer must pay for a detailed archaeological examination and so on of archaeological resources that people are finding. So what we've basically got is, oh yeah, I've worked this out. So over where A is, right, they were working over in A, and they found the wonderful remains of an Iron Age hut surrounded by Iron Age field systems, which are basically but a castle rig's the best example, isn't it, Andy? So if you go to let's just chuck in, oh yeah, let's just chuck in. Oh my God, I forgot. Let me know. Right, we might do a bit of that tonight. Yeah, I knew there was something I was missing. Field systems in the Iron Age. Right, I just got to. I might chuck that in as well. Yeah, we've got to do that. So what we can do, I'm going to want to show you something quickly about sort of field systems. So there we go. Castle Rig. I got some really nice photographs of Castle Rig, but I've no idea where they are. But Castle Rig, Castle Rig there. Images. Oh God. Oh, there. Look at that. Can you see all those ridges and furrows there? Yeah, on the image, that's Castle Rig, right? Northern Cumbria. Well, basically, when they were working at this site in Barrow upon Sour, what they did was come across traces of a medieval field system. Now, the rule of thumb is this, to try and work out systems of agriculture through the ages, right? So if you're if usually you find them on the side of a mountain, because obviously later agricultural activities were moved in most places, right? So right, okay, let's just do some really technical stuff, right? So if for example you talk to an archaeologist and he says up there, yeah, listen, Margaret, you're going to learn something now for the National Trust. Up there, right? Up there, that landscape, right, has been abandoned since the Bronze Age, right? So you go up there and you go, oh, wow, look at these little undulating humps and bumps, right? So that will tell you that as it's been abandoned since the Bronze Age, and there's no trees, there's nobody been living up there, it's very likely that those really shallow humps and bumps, right, are Bronze Age. Because when people are abandoning upland areas, it means that they can't plant crops anymore. They can't live there. That gives you an idea of dating, right? So if somebody's saying that landscape over there hasn't been occupied or used since the Iron Age, right? What you then do is you see the humps and bumps a little bit more developed, right? Now these are really organized and regular, right? And these ones at Castlerig are more than likely to be from the medieval period, right? These are more distinct, and they're usually in a checker form organization, right? And that's what you see from the likes of the medieval period. I thought I'd mention that. Right, anyway, let's just I like this image. It's nothing to do with what we're doing, but it is. So I've given you a bit of a demonstration. So what you're finding is yeah, that's the other point, is when you're looking at something like Castle Rig, this is a Bronze Age monument with earlier stuff there, Neolithic, and archaeologists like me refusing to go into the middle of these things, right? And that was really convenient. I was just being told I didn't get a role in a film. Brilliant, love it. Yeah, that was really nice, wasn't it? But what I was trying to say is that what you do find in archaeology and history is that there's lots of things going on at the same time. You know, prehistoric landscape, medieval landscape. There you go. We can go away from there. There's Baldric, my turkey. And get back to this. So in other words, what this wonderful Iron Age sort of pseudo later landscape as well. So they found these huts, and in the center of the hut they found burnt and broken stone, which could maybe indicate that they've got a burnt mound. And we thought that they didn't have burnt mounds in the Iron Age. Just a quick recap what a burnt mound is for Janice and Emma and Richard. Basically, a burnt mound in the Neolithic period going into the Bronze Age, more like Bronze Age. What a burnt mound is that in the archaeology, what you find is a big pile of broken stones, right, which have clearly been burnt, right, and somewhere away from that mound, there's a hole in the ground which is lined, which is a stone-lined hole in the ground, clay-lined, right, and what that basically is basically you know, a stone boiler, pot boiler or whatever. But what you would find is that there would be a fire there as well. So they put a stone on the fire. They would pick the stone out with tongs. They would put it in that hole in the ground, which is lined with water in, and it would heat the water up and anything in there. And then the stones in the mound, that's a burnt mound. Interesting enough, they found evidence of a burnt mound at this site in Barrow upon Stour, despite the fact that the period is known as the Iron Age. Basically, few little evidence of these burnt mounds are found in the Iron Age, but at this site that they found it. So they couldn't afford iron cauldrons or copper cauldrons at this site. So they would mostly cook in pottery bowls filled with water, which they boiled with stones, heated in the fire, the origin of pot boiler. So there we go. So there you go, pot boiler. So thought I'd chuck that in there. So what we've got is then, let's go to figure 2, which is this one in context, right? Which is actually oh, I got the areas wrong. It's over where B is, not C, B. Yeah, there you go. I made a mistake. So A is the Iron Age village, and then over where B is, right? There's B. What they found was this. So they found red circles of burnt soil, along with traces of coal. Not a lot to see, as you notice, but this is what we've got. Now, what did they examine these as? And these have since, so obviously all this has been built over since. So these burned circles are the remains of an early form of lime kiln. There we go. We found them. Also known as sod or clamp kilns. So basically when clamp basically in the ground, and obviously, but you might call them sod kilns because you'd cap them off with a sod. So you go sod kilns, and evidence of small scale lime workings. And so this is what we've got, you know. And what you might find is these in the medieval period as well, when people are poor, right? This is simple technology, right? So in the Iron Age or in the medieval period, this is what we've got, you know. In times of less technology, maybe a few individuals would rent, use, if they might rent or take over, or in the medieval period, or if it's in the Iron Age, it's your own field basically. And actually, this may not look deep, but some of these holes may be up to 3 or 4 meters deep in the ground, right? So all we've got is the top of these things. This was made by you're digging it sort of. You're digging this hole in the ground with everything in there that you can burn, everything that you can spare. They covered with limestone, and then on top of that, sods of earth and that's on the top. It would have smoldered for days before the limestone was sufficiently dry to become quicklime for use as a kind of fertilizer on their fields or as mortar for building, as we've already mentioned. But look at that sophistication there. This would have been all the way around is like conical shape. So if we, again, it's like that as a conical shape. So we've got this conical. It's great, isn't it? That they found that. I'm loving that in the ground. That gives you an idea of scale. So area C, back to that's there next to A, where the little bit of the village is. So C there. Now, interesting enough. So you've got B, where you've got the Iron Age activity. We've got the kiln stuff, right? They're clamp kilns. There's the village A, and there C. You've got the later kiln. Now, it might have been, for example, this is an interesting point. They might have actually had lots of lime kilns near their houses, for example. But the evidence from the later periods, the 1800s, has destroyed the evidence of their lime kilns. However, let's be a little bit more savvy. Lime kilns may have been placed over all the way to B because it was a fire risk and they didn't want to set their lights on fire. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it, folks? So what we've got is if we got there we go. Area C is the most exciting. And basically, well, it's exciting from different angles. This is a sophisticated type of kiln, much later, nowhere near our Iron Age, this one, which may have been used in the mid 1800s. Now, the difference is this is actually dug into the ground, right? And it's thermally wise, digging something into the ground is a lot better, right? And if you want to think about something that is actually out of the ground like this, right? You're dealing with the winds from all sides, and it's going to take longer to heat up, surely, right? So what you're going to do, you're going to go with something like this. But this again's 1800s, same date as the ones in Arnside, right? And this is what they've done. They've taken a big scoop out of the ground, right? And they've done this, and there's little steps leading down to it. Perfect, right? So half of it has survived. You've got the cone shape there clearly, and we're not. Somebody's basically saying that maybe, right? Maybe there was something else to this as well. And the archaeologists say this was actually incredibly hot. And why? Not that. They reckon this is incredibly hot because there might have been a dome over the top. So that means the thermal shock is that even if it rained, right, it can keep burning, right? And the clue, right? Let's do a bit of the clue. Let's do a little bit of a forensic archaeology, right? The clue to this being capped is in fact these side flues, right? Why has it got side flues? If basically when it's burning, everything's sort of sizzling up in the air, and it's escaping, right? Why would you need these side flues? It's probably obvious that you've got the side flues because you've got a cap on it, right? And this is basically to thermally lose some of the heat. So this may have actually been in excess of 900 degrees C, right? And then throughout the whole thing, right, I've actually been thinking something else. Actually, I've been thinking something else. Right now, this is going to be nuts, right? But let's just think outside the box, right? What are we taught when we put the oven on, right? I'll go on and Anne, right? Anne, answer the question properly, right? I'm bullying you now, right? When you heat up an onion, no, when you heat up an oven, Anne, right? What do you make sure you do with the oven to utilize it properly? Go on, Anne, answer the question.
You bring it up to the temperature you want to use it at.
Slowly, but what you're going to do, you're using all that money to heat up the oven. So what are you going to do?
Well, you're putting the pots and things in to warm as well that you're going to use so that they're all up to temperature.
Yeah, and
if you can, and you have something else to do, you can put several things in together rather than just one.
Yes,
if it's possible.
Yes. No, you've nailed it. So that is the point. That is actually my point. I'm quite excited because I'm actually thinking, right, if earlier on I mentioned if you somebody who was this is a great innovation, this kiln, by the way. If we do Limekilns in the future, just mention this. They're saying this was like an egg-shaped kiln, an inverted cone on the top. So the point is, what I mentioned earlier on, if you fell asleep alongside one of these and you rolled in, right, your body's never going to be found again, right? Well, why can't you, right? Why can't you put pots in here at the same time? Yeah, you can put pots in amongst the lime, because if the pots ain't going to melt, right? Because what's going to happen is you're going to have your pots. You're going to be and if you, the other thing as well is this is really good, right? If you can be a little bit more savvy, right? You could probably process galena You could probably process tin, which have a lower melt point, for example, than something like something obviously 1,450 degrees C iron. You're not going to get those temperatures here, but you might actually be able to melt other things, right? And produce other things, including heating up your pots. So what's going to happen is, as you're going to go through the lime at the bottom, you've got the little drops of things and so on. You've got your little ores and so on. I just mentioned that in there. Nobody talks about this. So there you go. I'm not going to be the first. I'm never going to be the first, but I thought I'd chuck that in there. Right. So so what we got with sophistication with these kilns is later on they're lined with bricks. And what they're saying, the reason why we don't have a dome surviving in any way, shape, or form is that once this had been filled, they just basically removed the lining on top, which may have actually been bricks. Think of Fred Dibner and stuff. They were all taken away and whatever. What you do occasionally find with lots of lime kilns throughout the ages is this thing that they is what happens is that somebody doesn't take notice of the burning, right? And they just leave the lime in there, right? And they go to a party the next day and it rains and it's sealed. They can't get the lime out because it's just set like concrete, right? So, and therefore you create a giant fossil of lime. I think that's absolutely great. So you could basically see these vertical slots in the wall and these definitely internal basically flues, right? And when again, these are actually filled from the top, not filled from, well, they're all filled from the top usually, but when we talk about this, what you're going to do, if we go to that illustration, basically you're going to chuck in your brushwood and all the stuff. You're going to lay the layers. You can put limestone in there and so on and so on. One thing that I have never really questioned when I've been teaching anything about lime kilns is images like this, right? Because from what I can remember with making metal and trying to make metal, is that you don't have layers, right? Because what happens when you yeah, that's nice. What happens when you have layers of stone like this, right? Instead of turning to lime, right, the stone fuses together. And how do we know that? Vitrification, right? So if you've got bands of limestone, right, in a kiln, and underneath and above you've got your burning material, right, they're both going to heat up, right? But what's going to happen is the stone is going to fuse together. So so I'm never really sure of this. I never really questioned this before. So the best way of doing this is to mix it all up, mix up little bits of your limestone, mix it up with your coal and all the rest of it, mix it in there, right? So this is what you're going to do, and it's going to be loaded from the big hole in the top, right? In my notes, it says alternating with layers of. I don't go with that. I really can't. It doesn't make sense. So what you do, then, go on.
I was just going to say some of the later ones, particularly one near here, was a continually used one. So it was burning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they were just continually top filling with layers to do that. So
when you say layers, can you and I have a little bit of an argument over this? Because I don't think the layers thing, right? Whenever I've done anything like this before, I've been taught to mix it up, but you explain the layer bit to me because it just doesn't wash.
Well, it's a bit like that illustration that we've got on the screen now. Although I'm not sure about peat, but I was looking up the peat temperature, and it's the same as wood actually. So theoretically, it could work, but I've never come across peat ones either. But
No.
putting in the peat so that it gets going and it gets because once it's burning, it drops down to the bottom, and you empty it out from the bottom. So
that's correct.
Yeah. So, but you don't, to keep the temperature going and to keep the oxygen level low, you have it in layers. So that they do, as far as I knew, they were loaded in layers for that reason. I know what you're saying about iron and stuff, but I think that's kind of slightly different. But
okay, I think maybe we could have a little look more at this in the future. But yeah, I just
I agree, because that might be a later process. So
yeah. Because in the earlier processes they're using small amounts, so it's so you're not really going to have layers. But anyway, so we'll talk about that again. It'd be nice to come back to that. I like a bit of controversy, right? So what you then are going to be, you're going to be drawing. You're going to be, because what happens is your line that you're drawing from the bottom, right? All the charcoal is just basically burnt off, and it's just basically you're drawing the lime, and there's little flecks of charcoal in the lime as you're drawing it from the bottom, and it was removed from the base. And then, as Andy said, you could keep tipping. So as you're drawing the line from the bottom, you just keep tipping. And this type of kiln was kept burning for weeks at a continuous process, and would produce very high grade quicklime. So, oh God, I've just lost my voice. I think at that point, right, maybe we should take a break. I don't know. I just lost my voice there, but I've just lost my voice.
That's how toxic lime is.
Do you know what? I've had this weird virus all week. So I am being going around kissing people. Right. Okay. Actually, this is a good time to have a break because it is 8:24.
Yeah.
And we'll do more of this after the break. We'll finish this site over the site at Barrow on Saw. And we'll do Iron Age currency bars. And actually, if I can quickly do the research on it, I'm going to look at field systems in the Iron Age, which I should have done. Sod it. But okay, then I can get my head around that. I just got to cheat a little bit and pretend that I've done it yesterday. I just knew I want to do that. Right. Okay. So so I'm just going to be busy feeding my sheep and doing this in the break. Right. Okay, then. There's loads of people put messages in here. Right. Here we go. Let's read the messages, folks. We got 5 messages, probably all from Andy. Right. So here we go. Oh, here's the answer, Andy. I was right, Andy, but I was right in the wrong way.
Absolutely.
15 million Model T Fords.
I didn't know it was
built.
that many. Yeah.
I thought it was in the hundreds, and then suddenly.
I thought it was kind of like 1 or 2 million. I didn't realize it was 15. Yeah.
So that would have been my God. That's amazing. So 15 million Model T Fords.
Yeah, and they weren't built for that
how
long
many?
either.
Andy, now the big question is, how many exist today?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have a look.
Yeah, Andy, I'm not even going to go for it. It's probably about 10 in it or something. Yeah. You've got to work that one out. But that is my point. The metaphor was that even if you 15 million T Fords, now why is that there's very few around? And Andy's going to say, yeah, there's like 10 million left. But
I've seen the one.
Point.
Yeah, I've driven.
Shut up, you. Yeah, all right, then get on with it. Right, those are
probably
two,
the same one.
So yeah,
they're not that many around. Yeah,
exactly. Peat burns at the same temperature as wood, 300 degrees C.
Yeah,
so
I didn't know
you're
that.
right, Andy. Yeah. This is...
Actually,
I thought
so
wood
when you put it in a kiln, it's going to increase the heat. So that's
exactly.
Because, like you said, it's got to get up to 900, so half as much
the
again.
Thermal reaction.
Yeah.
Thermal. Yeah. There are different types of limestone, and are they all very high in radon? Well, actually, radon you can get in sandstone areas. Basically, you've got. Oh, I tell you what. Let's go with the other one. I can answer this question quite easy. Yes, there are, but don't know if the radon levels is the same or not. Well, don't think they really cared. And that's 300 to 600 degrees C, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, look, what was that answer to? And I'll do the limestone stuff.
That was because I put 300 to 69 C by mistake.
Andy,
in my
your
excitement of
words
typing it up, yes.
Yeah,
and I've got my light on, so I can't see now.
Yeah, but you've got to work out how many Model T Fords there are. I'm sure it's an easy thing.
Yep.
Yeah, we want that. We want it. Right. So basically, there are other brands available, right? But what you've got 2 principal types of limestone, right? You've got your Carboniferous limestone, and you've got your lias limestone. Now, Carboniferous limestone, 350 million years ago, Carboniferous period. And then you've got your lias limestone, usually your blue lias limestone, which is the best for cement, right? And that is actually from the Jurassic period, right? So sure I got that right. The Jurassic period from 150 million years ago. So the point is, you can check all these facts and say I'm wrong, but anyway, the point is that the best limestone for making lime is actually Carboniferous limestone. You've got Carboniferous limestone in Derbyshire. You've got Carboniferous limestone, I do believe, in Cumbria. You've got Carboniferous limestone, Flatholm, Peter's beloved Flatholm. You've got in South Wales, a few other places in Britain. That's your best for lime. But your blue lias limestone is your best for creating cement, like your Portland cement, for example, which is obviously going to be a later process. But principally Carboniferous and lias limestone are your best your limestones. And usually what you find is, for example, in South Wales, you've got over in the likes of Devon, right? Now, this is a really interesting point. Now, we've got here we go, Andy, to everyone, estimated to be 100,000 Model T Fords running today. That proves my point. Andy, what is that a percentage of 15 million? We want that in a minute. We want you to work that out quickly. So something like 1.5 or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
but you've got to get the percentage, Andy. Right. Anyway, the point is, in South Wales, we've got by the way, I just got to mention this, right? I was standing on the cliff of South Wales once, right, and there was a group of Americans coming behind me, and they said, "Oh my bejesus, I can see France over there." And I said, "Yes."
Oh,
"Is that where the Nazis were?" And I said, "Yeah, that's where they were." I didn't tell them the truth, right? And they went all the way back to America when they went to South Wales and they saw France. I mean, the point is, when on the South Wales coast, there was all these little harbours, and they would take millions and millions of tons of pebbles away, and they would just fill up the boats with ballast and take them all the way over to Devon, right? And we know that they were doing this because from Devon, they filled up their boats with North Devon gravel tempered ware pottery, right? And we got millions and millions of fragments of this North Devon gravel tempered ware pottery, right, across South Wales. So we gave them limestone, and they gave us all these pots. So I thought I'd chuck that fact in there. You know, it's totally random, by the way. I don't even know where we're going anymore. Andy, did you work out the percentage?
Yeah, you were right. 1.5. I got it to be. So
1.5 of all the Model T Fords exist in the world, right? So that means that 98.5% have been melted into new cars, right? And if you think about that as an analogy about all the lime kilns that have survived from the Iron Age, you think that you'll only ever find 1.5% of the lime kilns from the Iron Age, because if they're in limestone areas, people have obliterated that evidence by building later lime kilns. And you see my point. Model T Fords, there you go. It's easy to do. Yeah, bring in the Model T Fords with everything, right? How many relationships have failed in your life? Model T Fords. Don't go there. Margaret.
I used to live in an old farmhouse in the Mediterranean, and we used to paint it we called it calce, and it was a limestone paint, and it could be quite caustic. You had to be very careful that you didn't get burnt.
yeah, it's lime wash.
Lime wash, yeah.
Yeah.
Quick lime wash. Wow.
Also,
Yeah.
But
It's good stuff.
The general name was calce.
Yeah. The general name was hospital. Right. Okay, then. Thank you for that, Margaret. Right. And hang on a minute. Did Janice join us?
Somebody did.
Yeah, somebody didn't end it. I don't know whether it was somebody who dropped out and rejoined.
Oh, maybe that was.
Did you let
Oh,
on, Andy?
Judith.
Yes, I accepted somebody, but I can't remember who it was because it went very quickly.
Somebody dodgy. Right. Okay. Talking about dodgy people, Judith.
I think that was me. I
Ah,
lost the
Yes,
signal and
Judith.
had to log back in. I don't do
Yeah, because if it was
technology.
Janice, just going to say, make sure you put the money in a bank account. Never mind.
No, it's very interesting. I didn't know anything about lime and kilns until tonight. So thank you.
Okay, well, we got the dodgy git online, and he's talking about 6 big oxen. And I don't understand what the hell he's on about. And Guantanamo Bay, right? Carry on. Nothing else from you, Judith?
No, sorry.
No. Right. Andy, 6 big oxen. What can you do with them?
well, you could do a lot with 6 big oxen, but lime on fields, right, breaks down clay.
Oh, yeah, it would do.
Which is really, really important for agriculture because a lot of soil is very clayey. You can't grow bugger all on it because it doesn't drain. So lime breaks it down really well. I've worked with lime a few times and it is really quite caustic. I actually burnt myself with it once. And that was
Is
just
that how you lost your hair?
Yeah, no, I didn't put it on my head. I was plastering with it and it kept overflowing off the board and it burnt my arm. I had everything else. I had gloves on and everything else covered up in a mask and it just caught my arm and I got a chemical burn on my arm. But it is wonderful stuff. Much better than cement. So
Well, you wouldn't get it in your eyes, would you?
no. And you wouldn't want to put cement in your eyes either. Same problem.
Once it's set like concrete, can it be melted again?
No.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I mean. If you got it set in, if basically it rains, right, and it's a heavy rainfall, right? Yeah, I know Andy was talking about you keep these things burning over and over again, but it's all to do with keeping that wood going. Just keep it going and keep the process.
I think if the rain at the top wouldn't affect it because the material at the top, which is why it's in layers, the material at the top would not have been hot enough to at that point to have been changed into the lime that becomes quicklime when it's in water. So only when it's burnt right through. So yeah. But it gets very hot. It boils the water. It's really quite astonishing.
But the point is, if by accident you do have a massive inundation of rain.
Oh yeah, you'd be stuffed.
There's no point recycling that kiln because all the material in it's gone, right? You may as well just leave it. And then you do find examples of lime kilns which are just sealed forever because that's what's happened. Or you've had an argument with your missus and said, sod this limestone for a lark, right? I'm off. You can deal with it.
What I get amazed at is the variations in lime mortars, right? Lime mortars is your quick lime, which is the stuff you mix with water and it's a paste, and you mix it with sand and it becomes mortar then. And you look at stuff, Roman stuff, like the the dome in Rome, Pantheon, right? 2,000 years old, still standing because it's brilliant, right? And you get Victorian houses where the lime mortar in them has gone back to sand. It's that poor. So there's obviously something to do with the mix, but I don't know enough about it to do that. It certainly ain't going to last 1,000 years. So.
No, 2,000, Andy.
2,000 years.
Where is chalk in the process? Because that's a kind of limestone, isn't it?
Well, it's calcium, yeah. But...
yeah. Is it that it's?
I'm going to pass on that because chalk itself, is calcium. It's similar, but it's not. Obviously, lots of chalk itself has been created in the millions, not tens and hundreds of millions. It's not compacted and it's not the same process. So,
but it's made from the same fossilized shells, is it?
But it's not compacted and broken down and condensed in the same way.
I see. Okay.
It's not gone through the same lithification process.
Right.
I thought the lecture was absolutely amazing, and I thought the technology idea of how it had developed was wonderful. But what hasn't been mentioned, it may not even be there. You often tell us things that sort of start in one part of the world and they, move about, or they get invented at the same time in different places. Do you have anything on this particular technology or not?
Right, because actually, there was there was an archaeological site that was in Jerusalem, right? Not Jerusalem, in Israel, right? And I was going to mention that, but it didn't really lead me anywhere, because I just thought, right, okay, I'll mention this, and how did this technology get to us?
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say is quite simple. You get people at one time they've got a copper smelting industry and copper mining, and then these people start doing it, and these people start doing this. But overall, what we do see is that people come to these evolutionary standpoints, that they're able to refine certain things. So, okay, it quite simple. So, as you're moving from the Bronze Age into the Iron Age, and the temperature is not going to be hot enough in a bronze kiln to create iron, right? Because you're reliant upon temperatures well under 1,450, 1,490, 1,500. So it's well under that, right? But by accident, right, by refinement of the kilns, by making them a lot better, thinking about this, guys, put it in your head, by making these things a lot better, refining them, you're able to create higher temperatures. All to do with that discussion me and Andy had with peat and layers and all the rest of it, right? When you make it more thermally secure in the kiln, you're creating higher temperatures. And it could be that, you know what I mentioned earlier on about putting other things in the lime kiln by deliberate or accident? Nobody questioned that. But if you're accidentally, the odd stones are falling in, the odd galena thing off the beach, not galena, hematite off the beach, even galena, a lead. And you think, oh my God, look at this stuff at the bottom. What did you put in last night? All that red stuff. Oh, we've got to do a bit more of that. We've got this kiln. And then this is how things are found by accident. When you think about lime, right, it's an accidental thing, and creating limestone is a very accidental thing, because let's just look at the technology quite simply, and this makes it quite easy. The only lime kiln I've ever excavated started off as a corn dryer, right? And I know it was used as a lime kiln because it was full of lime, but not good lime at all. It was really quite poor. But this corn dryer was perfectly. It was a clamp kiln, but it was stone lined, right? There was a flue. There was a stoke hole for feeding stuff in, and a flue, and it would have been capped off. That's a typical corn dryer. There would have been stones across it and all the rest of it. It's a typical corn dryer, right? But it might have been that they thought, oh my God, we may as well use this for limestone as well. But this is in a medieval context, because they'd been using lime for several thousand years before you get to the medieval period. But the principle is quite the same, that if by accident people derive to find out that these stones are heating up, they're producing this white stuff. What's this stuff? And the child starts playing with it, and he said, there's this white stuff, and by the way, that white stuff, the crop in that field grew a little bit better because of the white stuff. We need more of the white stuff, right? And this is the process. This is how the human mind develops, right? Nobody goes out of their way to think, oh, we're gonna put lime on the field, right? There's too many busy things going across Europe, and people's ideas. There's too much going on, right? If people are going to be trading stuff, it's more likely that they're going to be trading more valuable things than bringing you this technology. So lots of this is completely accidental. But it's like with anything. It's like with anything. If you set your mind to it, you can do it. And it's not a deliberate thing. It's a bit like computer technology, right? Actually, this is quite a simpler answer, right? When you look at computer technology, we started thinking about computers, and we started the idea about computers was muted around, and then you've got something like the Enigma machine, and then you've got the decoding in the Enigma machine, and you're starting to think, right, what can we do with this repeating things? And then you can start thinking about, we've already had the typewriter for a while, right? Typewriter, Enigma machine, that can develop into a computer. And then you're starting to get into the 1950s, and you're starting to think about how things develop, right? How did the Enigma machine get to what we're doing today? It did, right? No, Orson Welles in when you've got that sort of War of the Worlds, and you got the radio play in America in the 1930s. It's like, oh my God, you got aliens invading, right? That was a complete spoof. That was by complete accident. And then we realized that radio has got power to do this. All of these things are accidental, and there's no reason why all of these things in the past couldn't have been accidental as well.
I don't think they're so much accidental today, because we have whole laboratories searching for the new, looking where you can go with it. It has changed a bit from how it was, hasn't it? Most of it would have been discovered through an accident, but we've changed it of late, I think.
Yeah, what we do, we try and make things think a bit better, right? But in the main, lots of things are accidental. They're new colors scientifically being found. That's accidental, or have they gone out? It's that big debate whether things have been deliberate or they're accidental.
Yeah. Difficult to say these days.
Right. Okay. Loads of questions. Right. Anything from you, David? David's already had 4 cups of tea. Emma and Richard, because I want my little break. I've got to go out and feed the sheep quickly.
Yeah, no, we've got nothing.
Right, okay then. Adrina looks like 2 little weird black eyes that like
No questions.
It's gone out.
Right, okay then. So what we're gonna do, I gotta do 2 things now. I'm gonna quickly do the sheep. I'm gonna put the time down. We're gonna be, it's 8:44, right? We'll be back at 9 o'clock, folks. Now go for it.
And there is a modern accident that was very spectacular.
Yes.
And that was Viagra. That was
right. I'm going outside.
that was meant to be a heart drug and developed as a heart drug, and they found just by accident it had a side effect.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wait a
yeah.
minute, Andy. How did they discover that in women then?
They didn't.
Now saying that Viagra is good for
Oh, is it?
amnesia, not amnesia.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
David's right.
So we're
Yeah,
all
he's
going to be on
completely right.
Viagra next, aren't we? Yeah.
Hopefully.
Statins
All
and
right,
Viagra.
you
What a
guys can talk
combination.
about that.
Oh, dear.
Ooh, David.
Yeah, our time. We put 6 or 7 years delay on.
Wow, that's quite a significant. I didn't know that. Yeah. I was reading something because the house got surveyed that we're in, because we rent it. We're trying to buy it off the landlord, and apparently this particular road is very high in radon gas, which we didn't know renting it. So we're obviously going to have a look into that, but that's been connected with cancer of the lung and dementia. So
Right.
I didn't know Viagra could help dementia. Are you sure about that, or are they just saying that to get you to buy Viagra?
They reckon there's 200,000 people being.
Wow, that's a significant amount, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
It's interesting that they suddenly find out something like Ray Donald that's there when the world gets more dangerous, doesn't it?
Well, they've known about radon for 20 or 30 years, but
Yes,
I don't think they really thought, I don't think they really knew how dangerous it actually was.
Yeah.
Now they're starting to connect it with things. But I mean, you can vent it. You just put a fan system in and get rid of it. So it's not the end of the world, but it's something I think as we're on this particular road, the bottom end of our road here where we are is high. I think I really perhaps ought to get it checked. But of course, the machines cost 120 quid to check.
Yes,
it,
that's
so.
it. Some of these, well, I suppose, yes, everything should be sorted properly, really. But as soon as you've got to start paying for it, they can't be, because everybody can't do it. Yeah.
Well, they used to test for free, and then I think they found it was too expensive. So,
but it should be something like, you know, when they discovered that filthy water caused all sorts of diseases, the cholera and all that. That knowledge became available to everybody, and I don't think that's to go and do something about their water. I think the towns started cleaning up the rivers and things. It would seem things like that could be done for some of these other, like radon, which is here and there. Some people are affected and others not. It shouldn't mean they.
Well, they've changed a lot of domestic paints for that very reason.
Yeah. Because
70% of air pollution in houses was coming from the heavy metals and chemicals in paint. So they, because they have to get the brilliant whites, they have titanium and things like that in them, and also the solvents that they used for the oil-based paints were very high in volatile organic compounds, and they slowly leach out over years and cause a lot of problems. And they were saying that's it. So they've addressed that by using water-based ones, but there are so many other pollutants in the house as well. All these chemicals you spray on your carpets and your fire retardants, they're not really good for you either.
I think that people are stupid though who have this, will make it smell better, put this on the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's an absolutely unnecessary.
Get rid of the smell in the first place.
Yeah.
Or is that? But that requires using a bit of the old elbow grease, doesn't it? So. Yeah, they either hide it with a stronger smell of something else, or the other sprays neutralize it, but with another chemical. Everything's chemicals.
What smell are you talking about?
Oh, just air pollution, domestic in house.
Oh, right.
That they try to cover up and with.
Yeah.
Shake and vac. Yeah. Bring the freshness back. How can it be fresh? It's artificial smell.
Rubbish, it is.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting. Do you ever watch that program? It's called Fake or Fortune.
Yes.
Where somebody will bring along a painting.
Yeah.
Like for instance, last week somebody had bought a painting on eBay for £50.
Wow.
It was The Last Supper.
Yeah.
Anyway, that it was actually worth £50,000.
Wow. I didn't know that was on again. That I'll have to look for that. I really like that program.
Well, they found out because they were looking at the pigment that had been used so that they could date it. And they said this particular artist, I can't remember, was it Benjamin West, I think, he'd used something called Indian yellow.
Right.
You know how they made that?
No.
It was
Indians, ground up Indians.
No. It was from cows' urine, but the cows had to have been fed on mango leaves.
Wow. No, I never knew that.
And it made a particularly bright yellow.
Yeah.
And it only stopped being in use because they said it was very cruel to the animals.
Yeah.
I think it stopped being used in the 1920s. And he'd also used something called mummy brown, which was actually ground up mummies, which I know they used that in Chinese medicine, didn't they? But I didn't know they used it as a pigment. And that was used quite late on.
They used all sorts of things like this. It's like there's that very bright blue, which is made with lapis lazuli, but that's got stopped because it was not good for you as well. I came across a lovely story about yellow, one called Turner yellow, and it was a wall colouring that a guy had is it Sir John Soames, the architect? He did a lot of Whitehall and things like that. It's his house, and he was friends with Turner, and they assumed it was Turner who had advised it on him and all the rest of it, and they kept telling everybody about this until somebody found in the archive a receipt for the paint. And it happened to be the shop was called Turner's Paint Shop.
Oh.
It was just their bog standard yellow.
Oh.
But it's a lovely yellow though. It was quite a bright yellow, like harvest yellow sort of thing.
Yeah,
nice yellow.
He did like he liked to do a dash of colour, usually red, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, dating paintings by their pigments, because they do change. Particularly, you got the Dutch when they did all those beautiful interiors. They used egg tempera, which was very vivid colours, and they're really very soft, and the purer the pigment, the more smooth the paint as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, lovely stuff and spectacular paintings too.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
But fancy buying something for £50.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful.
It was the Last Supper, and they did all the research. It was really interesting finding out about it all and all the processes, all the people that had owned it, and they traced it right back.
Yeah,
it was really, really interesting.
And was it genuine or not?
Yes, it was. Yeah. It's not often that they're usually forgeries.
Yeah.
But this one, no, that he bought for £50, they said add another 3 noughts on the end. That's what it's worth.
You got to sell them though. That's the problem with paintings. You buy them because you like them.
Yes.
And then you've got to sell it.
No, he was going to sell it.
Yeah, I think I would at that. Yeah,
but sell it.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a struggling farmer. He needed the money.
Well, he bought well. He did really well to do that. Yeah.
Sometimes though, I remember there was a museum. I'm trying to think. There was the one where they've got the swan that moves. I can't remember. I forget the name of the museum.
Yeah, the Bowes Museum.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they had a painting that was sort of, they thought it was cheap. It was John Logs, this thing, and he just kept it. And then I don't know how they found out, but suddenly they found a different name of a painter who'd done it, and suddenly it became worth millions.
Right.
Even though, and you think, well, if the painting was, why does it become worth millions? It's if it's only the same, really.
Yeah.
As it when somebody was looking at it, say it's rubbish one, and then they discover something. I find I sometimes find art a bit nonsensical when I see that.
Yeah. I was listening to an interview with the artist Damien Hirst, who's famous for chopping shark into bits in formaldehyde and doing dot paintings and things. I mean, he is quite a talented artist, but he questions things a lot. But he was talking about when he'd been I think he was at Leeds School of Art, but I'm not sure, but it was one of the northern ones, doesn't really matter. But he'd given one of his student pieces to his aunt, and his aunt had rang him up and said, "Is my painting worth millions now?" And he's going, "No, Nanny, Aunt, it's a student piece, it's rubbish, And then he said, "Actually, it's signed, so it probably is, even though it's rubbish, So, but it does make a difference, but it shouldn't. You're right. It should be done. It's snobbery. It should be done on the quality of the picture.
It should be done on the quality, not just because somebody's made a name in another place.
Yeah, I agree. But, I wouldn't be buying one of them.
No, I don't think I'd ever afford anything that was of any quality. No. So I'll just paint my own and have to make do with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember talking to a friend. We used to. When we were in London, but a friend of ours worked at the Tate, so we were able to get into a lot of the shows for nothing originally. And we went to a show with one of the other friends, and he was saying, he said, "Oh, I don't understand art and all the rest of it." So I said to him, "Well, tell me what you see there." And it was a kind of an abstract painting, and he described things in it, and I thought, "Oh, I hadn't seen that, and I hadn't seen that." I went to art college, right? I have a degree in art. I didn't study fine art, but and I thought, "Oh, I never saw any of that." And I told him that, and he just worked in a garage, with cars and things. And I said, "Well, I didn't see any of that." So I said, "You've understood it better than I have. So how does that work?" And he said, "Oh yeah, well, I still don't understand it." And I said, "Well, I thought it shouldn't be that way. It's really snobbish, So,
I think it'd be really difficult to make a living as an artist.
Yeah,
I think most successful artists have a hard-working spouse, that pays the bread and butter, so that
I would think it's more like when you coming out of college or early in your career, somebody recognizes your brilliance and you get a name, then you can make a fortune.
Yes.
Even
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even a bit of a scribble on a piece of paper becomes worth a lot. And that it is a nonsense how that works. The name almost matters more than the art.
Yeah. I think you're right. I've met some very, very talented artists who are broke.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, and there are other ones who are also talented, in fairness, as well, who do really well. It's really odd. I don't know how you get your break in art and things. You know.
But it just seemed like that it's based on getting a name.
Yeah. Even like with my background was film and animation and things, and there were friends of ours who'd won awards, won BAFTAs and even Oscars for their animation, and they were still unemployed. And you're thinking, what do you have to do? You know, I found it demoralizing, to be honest. So
I suppose one of the things is, and that you find, I think another thing I find is how, I suppose, it's fashion dictates.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen, you look at stuff coming out of IKEA, some, you know, mass produced, and it's not very good.
Yeah.
And you go around to the local art show in May in Arnside, and I don't say it's all wonderful, but there are pieces in there.
Oh, there are. I've bought some in there.
Better than all this stuff, you know, and they don't sell.
Well, what you get also is you get the people like, I don't know whether you're familiar with a guy called Jack Vitriano, who does very atmospheric paintings.
Yeah,
just died.
Yes, he did.
The dancing in the umbrella.
Yes, and they become posters, and I think they're great. But there's a snobbery about it. You won't find one of them in the Tate.
No.
You know? You're thinking, why not? The guy's made a fortune out of it. You know, he's a recognized artist, like the Green Lady that used to be in Woolworths. You know, now very collectible.
I like him. I like Luciano, but there's what was that other one that sold a lot? But it was like an Indian woman with a teardrop and a glass, and it was ever so popular. And I thought it was absolute rubbish. It was sort of just.
Well, that's the thing with art, though, isn't it? Some people like it and some people don't. You know, it's like Carl Andre's pile of bricks. It was a pile of bricks, but the concept was quite interesting. But I don't think I'd have paid millions for it. But it caused a lot of trouble.
But when you look around you, there's art in everything. You know, every design. It's more. I'm looking around this room. I mean, the wardrobe's been designed. The computer
to my daughter
designed it. The radiator, the curtains, everything.
Everything. You're right. My middle daughter liked art, and she was good at school, but she felt it wasn't valuable.
Well,
she felt in school you had to be good at science and maths, and that's what counted. Yeah. And if you were good at art, it didn't. It was like so. She felt inferior, and I said just that to her. I said, if you look around this room, everything in this room has been designed by somebody. That's a form of art, whatever it is, you know. But anyway, she still does a lot of painting and that, but only, you know, but only as a hobby. She's never even tried to do.
I think you're in a minority there, unfortunately, and we find these days that when you're trying to get jobs, creative thinking isn't at all liked, appreciated, or valued. No, the stem cells, obviously. STEM subjects, not stem cells. STEM subjects really important too. But you think you do need the creative ones as well, because when you have a problem, a creative mind will think round it.
And I find I really appreciate schools and the way it's gone. It's not only music and art and that isn't done well. Even, let's say, exploring in science.
Yes.
In any kind of creativeness. Just
totally agree.
To be encouraged. You know, at the school level.
It's subversive. That's why, isn't it?
And, you know, and there's right and wrong answers to everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So I moan about it a lot.
No, it's annoying.
I was a teacher. I've been a teacher all my life, but I really could moan about them.
I think it's very sad. It will come round, but I'm just thinking, come on, I'm waiting. I'm getting old here, you know. Bring back the creatives.
Yes.
Also, I think, looking at archaeology, when you get the creative periods is when people are happy, they're civilized, they are, well, maybe I'm saying civilized goes with creative. They don't necessarily have to, but they do seem to. Everybody, there's not war. So they have time to make beautiful things.
That's right.
And those communities usually are quite balanced, as in the sexes and everything else, and a good community. So,
Andy, I want to paint what's behind you.
What, my mess of my room.
All of that I would love to paint. I like that.
I was looking.
I like to do lots of little details.
Right.
So I would like to paint all of that lot.
Well done.
I don't know that. Can I get a screenshot of that? No, I don't think I can get it full screen. So
you could have a competition, couldn't you, Andy?
I can get a screen. I'll try and get a screenshot of it for you and send it to you.
Like all the different shapes and different colours. Yeah, I like that.
All the junk.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Don't tell Karen. Whatever you do.
We're gonna have to crack on. I've just realised, right, that the Iron Age is not over because I've that little bit of a miss in my brain about Iron Age field systems and settlements and how it links together is going to be next week, but I got to introduce it. So I'm a bit sort of pushed for time at this minute. But
that's important. I'm glad you're doing that.
And also, right, I've just realised we haven't actually done peat cutting anywhere on any subject, right? And we've just mentioned peat. I think we did it basically a little bit in the Neolithic period, but that would be quite important as well because I've just realised that peat cutting is when you're cutting the upland peat, right? You've got nothing left there, and therefore you can't do agriculture or farming, and that's another reason why upland areas could have been abandoned in certain areas. You know, so that would be great to actually look at that. And right, so we're gonna crack on. And I've just realised my barley cup is going to be doing. So that's stewing away. I've got to make sure we've got some sugar in there.
Carl, that's really interesting. Peat cutting is one of those things that's been going on for millennium.
But nobody talks about it.
And we don't talk about it at all.
So we're doing that next week as well, if we can fit it in. And also, somebody mentioned something, and you were talking this wonderful thing about art and when's my day going to come and all the rest of it. Well, to be honest with you, last year I spent a lot of times doing little archaeological reports and getting some stuff published, right? And I just thought, right, okay. And then suddenly I get archaeology in Wales put through my door, right? And I have it recorded delivery. The one reason why it's recorded delivery is there's 20 entries in here by me, including some illustrations by me, which is absolutely brilliant.
Oh, well done.
And at the end of the book, it's got a certain book being reviewed. There we go, by karl-james Langford. And when and it's over a massive page there, and it's just thinking, well, oh my God, I've turned to another page here. There's my name twice. And the point is that sometimes we get disheartened and we think, well, you know, that it's the end of that, and you know, I've got to move on. And it's sort of inspired me now to do more of my report stuff. So
good.
There you go. So
really
Andy, there's hope there. Yeah. The reason why I've not published any books is because, did I tell you this last week? Oh my God. The reason why I've not published any books for a while is because lots of different circumstances. And in fact, I've gone through 2 Chromebooks and everything stored in the sky. Did I tell you this? That Chromebooks are designed to be disposable?
No, don't know about them.
Chromebooks.
All right, I tell you, right. I've got 2 Chromebooks which I can't use because they're these things, right? I've got 2 of these things, right? And because everything's stored on the cloud, right? If anything goes wrong with one of these, you're supposed to chuck it in the bin, right? They are designed not to be repairable. The power port in here is not separate like every other laptop. It's integrally built into the mainframe of the computer, and also the disk drive is placed into the mainframe of the computer. So this thing is disposable. You're supposed to chuck it away, the whole thing, when you're finished with it, right?
Yeah.
And it's so disheartening that my way of being creative, as Andy said, is being controlled by the fact that the technology I'm using, I can't repair. So I've got to wait a long time and I got to get back into it, right? It's a bit like you've got a beautiful paintbrush, but suddenly it's meant to just blow up and that type of thing. So our world is quite cruel in disturbing our creativity, Andy. So he's right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really wrong.
Right. So what I've got to do now, I've got to get back into what we were doing, and I've got to be very careful of time. And we lots of discussion tonight, which is what we've got to do. You know, we're all loving it. You know, everybody said something tonight. David's Viagra moment, but that's got to be that's got to be the height of it. But
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Yeah. The AI is going to have fun analysing that, isn't it?
Can we just, Richard? You've got to try it out as well, right? Let's just move on. Okay, let's do no more.
Right, I just touched the screen and it all went funny.
Ah, well, there you go.
I'm glad. That's even better. I'm loving it. That's fine. Let's just move on from that bit. Right. Okay. Right, okay, and oh god, and I'm still doing my Roman things online, and I've just had a big revival of my Roman stuff on YouTube because I've just suddenly found a whole load more Roman stuff in Britain, which is really frustrating, including a bit of a Roman wall in a cemetery, another bit of a Roman wall in a garden centre, right? A bath. Oh yeah, I'm loving it. Right, so anyway, let's just stop. Carl, can you just stop talking and get on with it, because you never get on with it. Right, okay. So we were still back at this place in Barrow on Sour. If I can get my thing to work. Come on, work. Yeah, go. Right, hang on a minute. Let's put a bit of charge in there, and hopefully this is going to work. All right, hang on, it's working. It's I've got to have a little bit of a slurp. Right, Barrow in Sour. I think this is a fascinating site because we've just got multi-level archaeology and multi-level stuff. So what we were doing, we were talking about tipping stuff from above. You know, this had a dome on it. This is from the 1800s. Really, really interesting design. And what they're saying is that lots of these kilns, the ones like in the ground like this, not like the ones that you might find in, for example, Ironside that's sticking out. The ones actually in the ground themselves are usually backfilled with any old crap, right? Or they may have had a final firing, and after the final firing, they were just if there was lime in there, just choked it up and they just abandoned it, right? Now, this is really, really interesting that you don't talk about mass lime kiln manufacturing areas, right? But the one thing that's really interesting about this Barrow and Pond Sour site, when they started analysing the landscape through geophys, through archaeological excavation, they found 30 lime kilns in total of medieval, of Iron Age, of 1800s, of later. This is a lime kiln mecca. I didn't even think I'd be saying that, but I usually talk about pottery kiln and iron kiln meccas, but this landscape is full of them, right? It's probably less to do with the limestone and its ability to be used. It's more because when you think about the soil, right, it's very clayey, you know, and where they're getting the limestone from. So it must have been something that was attractive in the area. So 4 different types. So together they show that limestone was being worked in this Barrow area, not Barrow in Furness. Remember, this is the heart of the country. Apparently they are intriguing kiln specialists. So guys, if there's ever a quiz question, Andy, right, and they say, where is the limestone mecca? Where is the lime kiln mass manufacturing area of Britain, and you could say Barrow on Stour, right? Because they've got probably hundreds within this landscape. A bit like Staffordshire. And pottery, if you want to think about that way. So these people are intriguing kiln specialists, as we find different specialists in different parts of the country, which is great. So what they're talking about is nearby. It's very likely that they've the reason why there's lots of clays and muds within the landscape is that they've limestoned out the area, and basically it's all been backfilled and silted up. And again, the dichotomy that we've got with a limestone manufacturing area, there we go, Barrow on Stour, is that usually earlier evidence destroys later working of lime kilns and stuff, destroys earlier evidence. But because they had such a big landscape to sort of extract their limestone, it was basically something that they were able to do. And just, you've got Iron Age ones over there, medieval ones, and so on. And also what they did actually find, as we've mentioned, we've mentioned the pot boiler evidence. We've found the other evidence of Iron Age buildings as well. So as we get onto the last sequence, the last piece of information is actually, so we've obviously got this hole, which is a bit more clearer, which is here. You can actually see this a bit more clearer. And obviously this is our Iron Age one, and the clamp kiln. And this is, it's saying about this one, this is actually a shallow pit. This isn't 3 or 4 meters in the ground. And it's actually talking, it's strangely enough, it's talking about, I think this is 2 meters in radius, actually. It's pretty big. And what they're saying is that this was filled with wood, coal, and it's talking again that this is sort of domed over. Half has been excavated to show the depth and of the effect and the absence of any sort of brick or stone structural work. And again, being able to date this. And the problem is with this site is that the Iron Age ones look exactly the same as the medieval ones. So because when they're excavating these, it's very difficult unless you've got medieval pottery at the bottom of one of these, unless you've got Iron Age pottery at the bottom of one of these, to actually date them from the appropriate periods in time. And the problem is it's going to be very difficult to sort of get your usual dating through radiocarbon dating. But however, if you do have little bits of charcoal in there, you might be able to date it either from the Iron Age or the medieval period, for example. So what they are finding, one differentiation between the medieval ones and the Iron Age ones, is that they find a lot of coal in the medieval ones, and I think this in particular one, rather than the one previous, is actually more likely to be medieval, because they've actually found coal in this one. So it's obviously looking at other evidence to actually date them. Instead of looking for pottery. So obviously if we're looking for pottery to date things, but people ain't going to chuck pottery in these things at the end of the process. They're just going to backfill them, because pottery is going to be quite valuable to both the medieval and the Iron Age period. They were built as and when needed. So this is the point. Now this is a really interesting point. You've got these lime kilns all across the landscape. There's probably hundreds of them, they're identifying 30 to 40 of them, whatever, but there's hundreds of them, right? And is this an actual area like Staffordshire that makes pottery? Is this an area that people go to actually for the lime, right? Is it the same type of thing going on? Because if you think about, they were built as and when needed, just holes in the ground, let's burn some lime, right? It doesn't seem to be industrial in the Iron Age. It doesn't really seem to be medieval industry. It's more like a cottage industry, small scale workings across the landscape for the uses of the local people. It's only when we start to think about these types of sort of lime kilns, which are a lot more industrial in the 1800s, it's probably exported over a much wider area. And it's saying quite quickly about this sort of landscape where we're finding this archaeological evidence. And there's the steps. There's the steps that led into this one for the 1800s. There's the steps. There must have been hundreds and hundreds of these, and obviously abandoned over time. When they've been used once, they dug another one when they needed it, because, and that's the point. Andy's point was really relevant earlier on. This looks like it can be used over a long period of time, and it's obviously built to be used over a long period of time because it's still there, right? Maybe these things were built temporarily for one firing, or maybe this was built and used over a couple of years, and then they built another one when the need took them. Obviously, when you've got industry like this is meant to be for a full-scale industrial process like Ironside. There are hundreds around Ironside. Am I right in saying hundreds? They're probably about 100 around Ironside. But around South Wales, where I'm coming from, you find hundreds of these as well, which is a mass limestone area where you're producing this material for the export across the landscape. So just closing in on this, maybe Barrow on Sour. Is this to supply the needs of a much wider area or local needs? Because the soil is very acidic, maybe, and they need this for the local area. We may never know, but it's sort of thinking about that inferred evidence and that inferred archaeology to help us understand this limestone industry. And we will be definitely coming back to the limestone industry when we do the Roman period. Now, a few things to actually close here today, something I did promise, and in fact I felt a bit sort of guilty at the beginning when Margaret bashed me a little bit and said, "Oh, not lime kilns." And hopefully, Margaret's got a little bit about these lime kilns. Hope she's got something out of it. What I wanted to do is I was thinking of the coinage situation, and I thought, well, we really done coins. We did coins quite a lot. We did it over a few weeks. We did these coins. We did earlier coins, middle coins, later coins from the Jura Tree, people like Kenai. We did all these things where the material's mined and where it's not mined and all the rest of it. But these are actually Iron Age currency bars, right? So I just thought I'd chuck this in there as a little bit something extra. If some of you have not been limestone convinced tonight, you've got a bit of British iron currency bars. So British iron bar currency. This was something that Julius Caesar spoke about, wrote about, really. He wrote about this in his commentaries of the Belgic Gallic Wars, that we actually had bar currency in Britain, and bar currency was traded in the north of the likes of Gaul, northern France. So iron bar currency was a form of currency consisting of iron bars that appears to have been maybe the first currency used in Britain, maybe even before coinage. That's really interesting, that. And from the archaeological data and evidence, what we've got is these iron currency bars first appeared around somewhere around 2,200 years ago, well before the age of Lloyd George. Had to get him in there. So first appeared around 200 years BC, right? So 2,200 years ago, 200 years BC. And we get this from a site called Hod Hill, which is, I mentioned Hod Hill a few times, in southern England. And Hod Hill is one of these huge places in Dorset. And this site is one of the ones that we talk about if you want to talk about hill forts, Bangor ditch enclosures. Is a whopping 54 acres in area, amazingly enough, Hod Hill. So we found currency bars at Hod Hill from 200 years BC. The currency bars have been found in 4 forms known as sword-shaped. So these are clearly sword-shaped currency bars. Now, the problem is, if you're an archaeologist or a metal detecting enthusiast, you're going to find one of these, right? And it's not complete. Are you going to think this is a sword or a currency bar? It is probably the thickness of this is going to give it away as a currency bar rather than a sword. Interesting enough, you've got various other shapes, and it's sort of saying plow-shaped ones, right? So they would be quite sort of elongated, maybe. They're talking about ones shaped like leaves, but I haven't got any examples of them to show you, and spit-shaped ones. So you're going to have to look that up yourselves. But the main ones that we're looking at, the main currency bars that Julius Caesar wrote about, was actually the sword-shaped ones. Now, it has been suggested that it has been suggested that these shapes were used to show the origin of the bars. So it might be in different areas they had different shapes. Maybe we don't really know. We don't really know enough about these bars to really understand them. It's a bit like suddenly somebody coming from a foreign, somebody coming from space, and you suddenly give them a collection of the world's currency and asking them how to put that together. So we haven't really worked out how the currency bars worked in Britain. Can you imagine? You're not going to go down to the local McDonald's trading these in the Iron Age. Don't go there. So the bars generally weigh between 0.5 to 0.3 kilograms. So they're not massive things usually. And sword-shaped bars make up nearly, over 40% of all the types of these currency bars that we know of in circulation in Britain. Iron currency bars have been found in some numbers, and 27 were actually found at the Dorset Iron Age site at Hod Hill, as we've already mentioned. 27 of them. So it's a bit like finding a coin hoard. It's finding an iron hoard. And this actually takes me off to something that I keep going on about quite a lot. And we've only seen evidence in one lecture of an iron torque. However, the iron used as currency, not gold, not silver, not copper, iron swords used as currency, because iron is so valuable and so meaningful. And iron, people realized in the Iron Age that you can use iron for nails, you can use iron for farming implements, you can use iron for treads on carts, swords, everything, right? And obviously, this is why you could say that these are the first currency. We don't have anything that equates to this in that part of the Iron Age, 200 years BC. What we do have is later on there are lead bars, there are copper bars. Yeah, we do find them. Yeah, we do, but that's later on. What's more important in this part of the Iron Age is that they've got these currency bars. So they've got ones found at Danebury. We've mentioned Danebury, appear to have been into the process of being used. So what they've got is they've got ones that look like they may actually be in the process of being melted down at Danebury to be used for other things. So in other words, there you go. They're currency bars that can be used for things that they were intended to be used for. So, I tell you what, look, mate, we've got these currency bars, right? We've got these iron currency bars. They're not swords. They're nothing else. They're not talks. Here we go. Can we have a herd of cattle, right? So then you take these currency bars, you melt them down, and the blacksmith turns them into whatever you want to turn them into, chains or whatever. So that's really, really important. There's actually, this is how important currency bars are. There's a hill fort known as Meon Hill, which is Meon Hill Fort. In 1825, they found the big beluga of Iron Age currency bar hoards. They found 394 of these bars, right? Which is absolutely unbelievable. In 1824, 394. That is a bar hoard. You can't make it up, a bar hoard. Now, there's two things that can be said about this. Now, the first thing is when you actually when you see these as currency, right? Somebody sat down one day and said, "Look, we've got to, we've got to do something. We can't just send sort of herds of cattle across the landscape or flocks of sheep. What we're going to get for it, I don't bloody know. So what we're going to have to get for it is iron bars. So that's really, really important. And when we there's actually something else that sticks to mind, which is going to come up in another lecture. When we look at the Roman fortress site of Inchtuthil, which is in northern Scotland, which is a big Roman fortress in Scotland, in the middle of the site, they found several tons of iron nails, right? The Romans had left behind, apparently, right? And they'd left them behind, apparently, because they buried them because they didn't want the locals to find them. And I looked at a different take with that. I just think, well, this looks like a bit of a hoard of nails, and that type of thing. So iron, we misunderestimate the value of iron in history, and it should be seen to be very important in history. So what appears to be iron bar currency mentioned in Julius Caesar's Commentare de Bellio Gallicio, as I've mentioned, the commentaries of the Belgic Gallic Wars written by Julius Caesar. And he mentions these bars. There are variances in the surviving texts, meaning that it is possible that the original text was referring to iron ring money. However, iron bar currency is considered more likely in the light of archaeological discoveries of bars. So in other words, what they're talking about, there's not really much in the way of iron rings. We always miss it. We always interpret iron rings in Britain as being for sort of slavery and things like that. We don't really interpret them as being ring money. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. And finally, if anyone wants to go out and have a think about this and maybe look at the categories. So sword-shaped iron bars like the one in front of us. And we might have a fiddle around with the internet. Maybe I'm not going to find this, but let's just try and answer this question that I was going to get you to answer, right? So this last bit has been put as a bit of a final forethought. So if we know what sword-shaped those bars, we think that they originate in Dorset, Hampshire, all the way up to the Humber, right? But they're saying that these other spit, if I don't come up with this first one, shaped iron, here we go, iron age currency bar. And by the way, folks, if I used the new technology that I've got, you would be able to see my nose hairs. So that's why I haven't done it. That's why I've used it. So have we got? Oh, right, there we go. Right, have we got spit-shaped ones? No, it's just doing the. There's interesting ones. And it's talking about the different types of currency bars. I don't know which are which, but if you want to look these up, because we are running out of time now, but that's what they're talking about, Celtic ring money. I don't really see that. You think that as talks, but they're talking about the spit-shaped ones, for example, probably produced in Somerset. The plough-shaped ones, Thames Valley, Kent, and Kent. And the bay leaf-shaped currency bars probably produced in Cambridgeshire, which might be, which ones are these? Hang on a minute. Let's just see what we've got. Let's see if we can get this one up quickly. Unfortunately, I don't have access to that. Oh, sod it. But yeah, so you've got these different types of currency bars in different parts of the country. Again, I'll repeat the different types. And we've got there's more about it there. If you type in AI, it should tell you that you've got these spit-shaped ones from Somerset and the plough-shaped ones, as I say, from Kent, and the bay leaf-shaped ones, Cambridgeshire. And finally, what I'd like to mention, right, is this little one, probably rushed there at the end. And the other thing I wanted to show you, this is what we're going to be looking at next week. That is an Iron Age field system. And look at that there. You can see that they're quite faint, but that's dated as Iron Age. And you can get an idea there of an Iron Age landscape and sort of how much of that is based on anything, I don't know. But there is one thing interesting about this. You can clearly see that muddy trackway there and how things got very muddy in the Iron Age, which I've been talking about hill forts quite a lot in this illustration. And you can see these little patches of fields in the background with little walls around them. And this itself is from the English Heritage Site. When you look at field systems in the Iron Age, this comes up straight away. A beautiful image like this. And maybe what we could do is discuss this a little bit more next week. But unfortunately, that's it for today. So we're going to, again, keep that there for a moment. Well, I'll ask one of you, and no, I won't. We'll do that there. And okay, right. No, don't forget your shekels as well. I'll chuck that third time in there. Right. Okay. David, anything you want to say for this week, lovely?
No, thank you. No. Good night, all.
Hi,
Bye,
David.
David.
Right, David. See you next week. Take
Mm.
care. No,
Bye.
night, David. Right. Who have we got next? Judith.
This is going to sound weird, but what shape
Hi,
is
Dave.
a spit?
What?
What shape is a spit? Do you mean like a spit that you'd roast meat on, or somebody gobbing?
Oh, actually, on the screen then, it actually showed little things that looked like spits. Yeah, so that
So
would
it
make
is, it's
sense.
like a spit that you'd roast meat on.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
because
that
you had
comes-
little metal things there. That looked right, and you had little sort of
Skewers.
oblong type things. Yeah, so
Lovely. All right, that was it. Thank
I would
you.
have needed to do a bit more research on that to get it right, but that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Right. Okay. I put. Yes. Okay. Andy.
No, I find the shape of currency weird sometimes. Perhaps because I'm used to coinage in modern times, but when you get like you get those little ones that they used to trade for slaves, the little I don't know what they can't remember what they call them now, but they're like little tiny talks that were made of copper.
Oh yeah, the little South African ones.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they were the currency because they came from here, So, but and the long thin shape. I mean, there's no reason why it can't be any shape. Obviously, maybe long thin shapes fitted into their trousers better than coins did in those days, but. Because you've got to trade it, you've got to carry it, haven't you? So
yeah, they're just such a weird shape. Surely this shape would be better.
Yeah.
And obviously the ones in China where you've got like on these circular coins with like a square thing in the middle, and you're thinking, well, yeah, all right then. And yeah, statues of Lloyd George is my currency.
Yes. You don't
to
get
go
them
back.
to £1. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You don't. Right. So hopefully Emma's taking notes. Right. Okay. For the fan club, Margaret's going to join the fan club after this. It's the Karl-James Langford fan club on Facebook. Right,
Official.
Margaret. Anything you want to say? Official. Yeah, the official fan club.
Eminent Karl-James Langford official.
Yeah.
Don't give it away, Andy, too much. I tried to keep her under my hat. Right. Margaret.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was dismissive about the Limekiln thing. It was very interesting.
So you should be. I know you get bored stiff with the National Trust being chased across the landscape with a shotgun, but you don't have to take it out on me and Andy.
No, you made it very interesting. How do they know that those iron spits were used for currency?
I think when you get collections of things just chucked in together, somebody's actually just said roasting. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's the dodgy get online. Yeah, don't ask. Roasting spits. But when you think, well, yeah, it would have been nice. I tell you what, why don't we just chuck a little bit about that in next week, because we're going to be. That's going to be left as a question. So you're not. I will get the shapes and forms of that for next week. Right, let's write that down. We need to see images of currency bars. So we'll answer that next week.
But how do they know that it was used for currency?
It's got it written on them. It's got said right currency. It says this was Iron Age currency. It's got it written on.
Have they got different values for different? Are they the size of a sword?
A £1
Yeah, well,
iron bar.
well, basically, you've got a tally sheet with each one because the Iron Age people wrote this down, and it makes it easier. Actually, that might not be too much of a joke because you might go into some of these antiquarian cabinets and it's got written on them, this is a currency bar. And then it's got a little sheet saying, we know this because in the Iron Age, this was a certain value and this equaled a load of sheep, right? Yeah.
So maybe one of the iron bars would be worth one cow.
That's what the antiquarians tell us. Yeah, and they're right always. Can you remember the antiquarian diggers? They were smack on. They did it. See, that's blown her out the water now. It's got no more to say. Do you know what?
I remember Thomas Bateman. Thomas Bateman, the antiquarian.
Oh yeah, we love Thomas.
Yes, that's stuck in my mind. That man.
And Thomas Bateman, the Dodgy Git show says, and Japanese symbol history of language shows us mounds too. Many keyhole-shaped stars, moon, earth, sun. What the hell is he on about? And the writing shows us the Trinity. What? The one above Eden? Well, that's got nothing to do with it. Yeah.
I think he's
Margaret.
An alien. He's an alien.
I think he's lost it. He's the one who fancies Anne on a Wednesday. He's in the wrong thing, yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay then. Right. Talking about dodgy people, Anzi.
Anzi.
Yeah. Go on, Anne.
Me?
Yeah. Oh, hang on a minute. Who else is there?
I thought you said that. I thought
yeah, go for it.
I misheard. I thought you said Andy.
No, Anzi.
Rather than Andy, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I haven't much to say, really. I found it really, I find, well, one of my real interests in anything to do with history is either the social arrangements of or the technological stuff. And I think tonight has been really, really good. I've really enjoyed it because of the amount of stuff you've given us about the technology and how it was used and how it was developed. And the big range of what it was all used for, I forgot the name of it now. Again, it'll come back. The lime stuff. What the range of stuff it was used for, even a long time ago. I thought that was really, really interesting.
And the use of the quick lime and the slate lime, calcium hydroxide.
Did they use it to build the pyramids? Limestone.
Oh my God! The Dodgy Git was talking about that. No, apparently. No, because they used limestone for the pyramids, but it was limestone. It was I think it was Lias limestone. Blue was it for the cladding on the outside? But the sandstone block. No, they didn't because the blocks were so well done. You didn't need cement and mortar. It's the whole point.
Didn't need it. Weren't they white? Were they white originally? The pyramids?
Yeah, because they were cladded with limestone on the outside, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just the cladding.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. Why was I thinking of blow up rubber dolls? I just don't know that. It just had to come on my head. I'm sorry. Right, talking about dolls, Emma and Richard. Well, you could say something. Don't... What? Oh, they don't want to say anything, right? Emma,
no, we're fine. Hold on. Dad would say something.
Do you think?
Go on, Dad.
Do you think the iron bar was part of a barter system? You know, I'll give you a handful of beads for that iron bar.
The thing is, right? Yeah, we're talking about a barter system, right? But then again, when I'm talking about a barter system, I'm always thinking that there's something not quite right with what I'm saying, right? And I'm not easy with it because a barter system works that everyone's bartering, right? And everyone across the country, a region, right? And if we're not seeing these iron bars in the 4 or 5 forms that we've got them, right? then then it's not a barter system, right? So it's like, okay, on the planet today, everybody's got everybody's got access to some form of money, right? Not necessarily the internet or whatever, but most people have got access to coins or some kind of money on the planet, so you can have a system of trade, right? But if not, if say for example you go into a village, right? I want to buy a load of cows, right? And the guy says, right, okay, I want for a cow, I want 10 chickens, right? You say, well, I haven't come with chickens, I come with an iron bar. And he says, well, I don't want an iron bar. I've got nobody to melt the iron bar into anything. So I don't want the iron bar. So how does that system work if it's like that? Unless you're imposing on people, i.e. you have to use this barter system, then the barter system is not going to work, right? It's the same as the idea of collapse in civilization, right? So if all of our money's online, right, and our computer systems collapsed, right, how are we supposed to and most of us haven't got money, then most of us are going to be in trouble. Therefore our financial system's collapsed. So unless everybody's got these iron bars, right, the system's not going to work. So are we seeing this in a wrong way? Maybe it's not a barter system at all. Because I'm sure this goes back to my Roman lectures in the future, right? Back to the Future. There we go. So basically, the way I talk about the Roman world, right, is that I go down to a Roman harbour and it's Iron Age Britain, and the year is AD 44, and on the 24th of August at 5:15, and I go to the harbour and I say, right, I've got 10 chickens for you. And the guy says, right, here's a gold coin. And the guy buggers off, right? So you go all the way home, right, with this gold coin, and you says to the missus, I've got a gold coin. And the first thing the missus says, well, what am I going to do with it? I can't eat with it, right? So this is the same problem. And unless you've got a system which is it's the same, do you know, the boy goes out and has a load of beans, and his mum gets upset for the cow, and he chucks a bean, and a jack in a beanstalk, right? It's exactly the same story. So no, it's probably not a barter system at all, but we're calling it a barter system because you can't think of anything else. That's it.
Well,
The light's going.
So right, we got
like swapsies that you used to do at school. Maybe, I don't know, going right back, but
when you were at school and you did swapsies, everybody had a beer discs, or everybody had little pops or cigarette cases and stuff, right?
Well, you know.
But in this system, not everybody's got the material to barter. So if you go from one hill fort to another, right?
It's a time and a place, isn't it? If these little places had a blacksmith that made horseshoes, and you went along with iron bars with a herd of horses, he could shoe them, and you could give him 20 iron bars to make more horseshoes. I don't know.
But the thing is, if they're not shoeing horses, what were you going to do? So the point is, it's or maybe it's quite as simple as this, right? Some of us have credit cards, others don't, right? Some of us pay with money, others pay with eggs, right? I do all three, right? So I have been into a shop with no money and said, do you want a copy of my book for a bag of chips, right? That's what I've done it, right? I have done it, right? So what we're talking about, it's an open system of commerce, right? You've got some money, you've got some bars, you've got some chickens, you've got some skills, right? And that's the system that they've got. There's nothing specific. That makes sense. Right. If there's nothing else, Richard, we're going to go on to Drina.
No, I've not got anything to say, but I really enjoyed it tonight. Thank you.
I'm glad you really enjoyed it. You enjoy every week with us. It's like it's like all of us being in bed together. We have a wonderful time.
I think you're a fascinating bloke with
thank you.
Such a degree of knowledge that I can't believe it. But
thank you.
I think this is my third sit-in, And
or fourth. Third or fourth.
Fourth.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Good. And there's one thing: if people don't enjoy these things, then you're not going to be along. But if you do, that's what it's about. So I really appreciate that, Richard, and everyone I'm sure feels the same. So
I never knew they had iron bars to trade. Now I have a little bit more information.
Exactly. A little bit more.
Brilliant.
Okay. On that note, thank you very much, Richard, and I'm sure I will see you all next week. It's 9:47, so if this was the old times, right, this would now be 10:30.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm not even tired.
Well, don't start. We're not doing
There
any
she
more,
is.
right? So, okay then. If nobody's got anything else to say, I'm going to say thank you very much, and on board for another 2 months with everybody. So that's great. So I'm going to say good night. Thank you very much. So good night, Judith, Fraggle,
Night.
Anne, Margaret, Lloyd George, Anne, Emma, and Richard, and Gina, and obviously David just left us. So
Bye, everybody.
Good night to Maggie.
This week. Bye.
Night. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Night, folks. Night. It's just me. Oh no.
Oh, hold on.
You're beautiful.
I know I am. I can't.
Did you hear that? Did you?
Actually, to be honest with you, that I look so amazing tonight. I can't always be amazing like this. Anyway,
we're trying. I can never work out how to get this off.
Say a special good night to Maggie for me.
Maggie, we love you. Oh, Maggie, we do.
She fascinates me. That's all I can say on air.
She's not listening, is she?
No, she's not listening. She's yeah. The dodgy git's still on, but
no.
he's on about
all right.
Sulfuric acid. Anyway, I'll speak to you soon, folks. Take care.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Bye.
Get into the fan club, folks. Night. People. 1, 2. Oh my God, it's still online. It's still online. Oh my God, I just forgot. I was just chilling out, yeah. Do you know, that is really clear. That is unbelievably clear for me. I don't know what the technology is there, but it's just maybe it's a different way of doing it tonight. It's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty clear. That's pretty clear. So I'm gonna read out the stuff in the chat box, right? And we're gonna do this once. Okay. Right, so let's do the chat box stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on that window. Andy says 754, 15 million Model T Fords built. And the metaphor was that it was like, how many are left today? Which we'll answer in a minute. The next thing from Andy is peat burns at same temperature as wood, 300 degrees C to 600 degrees C. Now, never seen it burn that high, but usually say 400 C at maximum. Anyway, Margaret, are there different kinds of limestone and are they all very high in radon? I don't think that's really relevant when you're thinking about burning the stuff. If you know the radon is that sort of slight weird oh God, what's the bloody word? Radon. It's like a gas, isn't it? Like a toxic gas. Usually with shale and stuff. So you radon gas. Anyway. 806. Yes, there are, but don't know if the radon level is the same or not. It's not really relevant when we're talking about Iron Age stuff, but yeah. That's 300 to 600 degrees C. Smiley face. And he's not talking about radon levels. He's talking about, again, the what we need in a kiln associated with 600 degrees C, you know, the temperature of wood burning. I'm not really sure about peat again, smiley face. Don't forget peat. And the last message, 829, estimated to be 100,000 Model T Fords running today. How many of them are the original Fords that are running today? So, not 600 degrees C. But anyway, how many T Fords running today that are actually probably from the first few years of the Fords out running? So, okay, here we go. On 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's the end of my class. That's the end of my messages. That's the end of my chat on 1, 2, 3. Okay, diolch yn fawr i chi. Gwelwch chi eto. This has been really clear. This is probably a very clear one tonight. Look at my hair. Look at that there. Sorted. Diolch yn fawr i chi. Gwelwch chi eto. And nos da chi. I'm just going to quickly look to see if there's bye bye all. Thanks, Dodgy Git. Night night.